It having reached the hour of 5:32 p.m., I am calling the April 27th, 2021 Modesto City Council meeting to order and ask the city clerk to call the roll, please.
Council members Eskisha Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Here.
Ricky.
Present.
Council members Alaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Here.
Wright.
Here.
Mayor Swallen.
Here. Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation from Scott Nelson from Covenant Grove Church.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Let's pray. Dear Lord, thank you so much for your many, many blessings in our lives. And Lord, we remember them, we remember you, and we count them, especially in these hard times. Lord, I want to thank you for our great city and for the people who are leading. Lord, I pray for your wisdom, not only in the decisions that are made, but also in the way that we do the business together. Lord, thank you for their leadership. We pray for our city. We pray for our residents here. And we pray your blessings in our lives. We pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Right. Does the city clerk have any announcements?
Yes, Mayor, I did receive one written comment for item number 19, which I distributed out to each of the council members and staff. And please remember, public comment period is 3 minutes.
Thank you. Do any council members have any conflicts of interest?
No.
Seeing none, will the city attorney report out on closed session?
Yes, Mayor. The council considered a couple items, existing litigation and labor negotiations under closed session. No reportable action was taken. Staff was given direction.
Thank you. Next is acknowledgements and presentations. We have a presentation from Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors for update related to COVID-19.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I appreciate the opportunity to come. It's been a while, so I appreciate it. And just updates, I mean, the county's working on the American Recovery Act. The funds are allocated, obviously, as you know, for Modesto as well. And we should start seeing from our update today or briefing today, start seeing some of those funds flow towards the end of May. And then hopefully available to the community short thereafter. The county's just looking at where we're going to expend those funds, having a pretty robust conversation with fellow board members, with staff, and in some aspects, really trying to get the community involved and see of having some community-driven conversations on where they'd like to see some of those funds go. So those are the things we're doing on the American Recovery Act. This week, as all of you know, was Love Modesto and Love Stanislaus County, and many other cities took part in it as well. I was able to go and really see the great work happening in our city. I was out there at the Tuolumne River Park, Chris Guptill, Darren Jesberg, and their team doing all the great work. And it always fascinates me, as much as that they work hard and how much they are doing, the amount of stuff that is still collected in those areas is, I mean, when we got out there, there was probably 60 to 80 volunteers, and bags of trash had been already filled up. And I was talking to Chris, and he had said that they had just done a cleanup about a month ago. So hopefully that starts to diminish and the amount of littering and stuff going on there, because I really believe that's a true treasure for our city and our region. But that was a good part of Saturday, and got the opportunity to meet with some of you council members on a individual basis. I always appreciate that because it gives us opportunities to help our shared constituencies. And Councilmember Ricky was one of the council members that I reached out to. Somebody had reached out to our office about a tree that they felt was dying and could have been a big issue for them and their property. And so I reached out to Councilmember Ricky, very helpful, very expeditious. I'm sure staff was the same way, and that's why it got done in such an expedient manner. So I appreciate staff still being able to reach out to all of you and help out with that. And I know I have some meetings upcoming with some of the council members, but I really appreciate that. It gives me a good opportunity to see the things that you're seeing in your districts and how I can be of assistance or of any help. So a short presentation today, just because a lot of the same stuff that you guys are going with budgets. I listened in on some of your budget hearings, and that's the same stuff that's happening out at the county as well. But just wanted to come and say hello and make myself available to any way possible that I can be of assistance to any of you. But I appreciate the opportunity to speak today and to say hello and see all of you.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Graywall. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you and have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Mayor, just on another note, we just had an item removed from consent, item number 7. So staff is aware that it has been removed from consent.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Now we will go to number 2, consider accepting an informational report on the Modesto Transportation Center Improvement Project to the Southern Pacific Railroad Depot Landmark 19. Hello, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Hi, good evening, Mayor and City Council. Adam Barth, I'm the transit manager for the city. Tonight I want to give you an update on the progress for the project at the downtown Modesto Transit Center. We've been in this project for a couple of years now, and we're at a point now we're close to going to bid for it and getting the permit to move forward. And so tonight to give you an update on the progress, and then the next one is to talk about ACE, and the next presentation on the agenda is to talk about ACE and how the two projects are connected. So the transit center, there we go, is going to be updated and refreshed to provide an inviting and comfortable place for folks that use the system, that use the center, to have a place to sit and wait for their bus or wait for the train. There's several different organizations that use the center, including Max and Start, Greyhound, and taxi cabs, and then the ACE train, which goes over the Altamont corridor over to San Jose. So the project took a little while to get going. One of the issues that we ran into was that FTA funds a portion of the project, and as part of those funds, it was required that we do a NEPA environmental review of the project, and so that had to happen before it was approved to move forward. The city received the final concurrence from the State Historic Preservation Office and the FTA in October to move forward with the project, and the Landmark Preservation Commission with the city approved the project as well in October. And so we're ready to move forward now with the project and go to construction. And I'll give a little bit of update on what the project is for those council members that may not be familiar with the project. Some of these specific improvements include upgrades to ADA access, increased lighting and video surveillance. We're going to redo the interior of the facility to make more space for both the bus and rail passengers. Improve restroom privacy, which you'll know what that means if you've been there. Improve the digital signage there at the facility, and other cosmetic improvements and landscaping. So this is just a picture of the transit center outside as it exists today. There are a number of cosmetic issues that we need to repair on the outside of the facility, including an update to the color of the building as well. This next picture is just a rendering of what we intend it to look like. So change the color, install pavers around the facility and on the crosswalks, as you can see there in the rendering. We're going to go to the inside. This is how the interior looks today. Just a small lobby space that's used for the Max customer service area. Those doors that you see there in the middle of the picture, they actually go out to an arcade that's on the west side of the building, which is going to be opened up and available to ACE Train customers when the ACE Train starts. And so we wanted to create more space inside to create more waiting space for folks that are waiting for the bus or the train. And so here's a little rendering of what that intends to look like in the future. So you see those doors now will be opened up. We can't remove that wall. That wall is part of the historic building. So we didn't want to remove that wall, but it's still going to be opened up. You can see there into the other side of the arcade to create more space, more conditioned space for folks to be in. As part of this is a shot that looks from the other direction. The Max customer service you see there at the far end of the corridor, but this space will be opened up as well for customers to be in. And this is just another shot of the open space. And this is from the existing lobby area, just looking from the other direction. You see those windows there. Those windows exist today as part of the customer service for Max, and so those will continue to exist. This is a footprint of the facility as it exists today. There's more detail in the agenda report and the environmental documents there if you're interested to know. But the main point is we're adding more space for Max passengers and public transit passengers and ACE to be in. So a little timeline on this. The documents are in for the permit to move forward with the project, and the engineering team expects to go to bid in autumn of this year with your review and potential award this winter. Construction starting early next year with about a year timeline for completion of the project. And on the budget of the project, it's about a $5.6 million project with various funding sources that are listed there on the screen. And about $269,000 has been spent to date on the environmental reviews and design of the facility. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions from the council? Council member, do we have any? Council member Escudia-Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. Might you be able to speak to any amenities being incorporated for individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, many of the ramps that exist at the transit center aren't quite ADA compliant. There are ramps there, but there are some ADA compliance issues that'll be corrected with the project to get people in and out of the building, of course, and to each of the bus islands and the facility. Everything will be ADA compliant, if that helps.
So ramps, is that the only?
Ramps and the other requirements for the ADA include I'll say the rumble strips, but that's not the right term for it, but those will be installed as well.
But I would imagine the entire building has all the necessary requirements to accommodate wheelchairs and all the various disabilities.
Right, yeah, all the doors, there's specific doors that have the automatic openers, which they exist today. I imagine those are going to be upgraded as part of the project. The restrooms are ADA compliant. We are looking at other options for the bus island, for more audible announcements of where buses are at, and letting those that are visually impaired have more access to the bus while they're at the transit center.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Zalaki.
Thank you, Mayor. Hi, Adam. A quick question. I was looking at the renderings. I don't know if those are where they're going to be, what's actually designed, because I know they initially were probably designed early on, and materials. I'm just wondering about inside the parking areas. There's a lot of traffic that's going to be utilizing this, since we'll have our expanded regional participation in our transportation, our public transportation, which is very important. And I was just looking at, it looks like asphalt. At one time we discussed getting pavers in there so they can be easily repaired and maintained and such. Is that a possibility? Has that been settled, or the materials, is that far along? And who is the controlling entity in that design, that part of the design work? Is it City of Modesto, or is it Ace Train, or the state, or who?
There's kind of two parts to that. So on the
Okay.
transit center side, where the transit center is at in the parking area, that's controlled by the city. And so the pavers are planned for around the building and in the crosswalks that are throughout.
I saw that, yeah, I saw
are
that.
throughout there. In the parking lot itself, it's just asphalt in the parking lot itself. I believe Dan, when he goes over the ACE presentation, he'll show a new parking area that's going to be on the 8th Street side, so on the other side of the tracks. There's a large open area there that ACE is planning to convert to a parking area. I'd imagine that's asphalt as well, but when Dan presents, that'd be a good thing for him.
On the other side, yeah. I was thinking more where buses are going to be pulling in order to load and unload, particularly our local transportation. Make sure it's, it just, the longevity is not questionable, that it's going to make it through, the heavy equipment going across it, being able to get in and fix that, and not have to bring in jackhammers and such in order to make those kind of improvements. If it's not too late, I'd like to suggest that.
Okay.
That be examined as part of it. Most of this funding is coming from AB 132 for this, and so this is the station that sort of sets the pace of it all. So
Okay.
it's important to make sure we keep the standards up.
Okay.
I guess what I'm saying is Turlock has set a standard. We should at least keep up with Turlock.
Okay. We will take a look.
All right, Councilmember Canoyer, do you have a question?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All righty. All right. Any comments from the public regarding this particular agenda item?
I have my hand up, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Madrigal.
Thanks, Adam. I'm going to blame my connection if you said this already, but related to the ACE train, can you tell us what the timeline is of that again? Like, just, for the benefit of the public, what's the timeline of the ACE train and its intersection with this project?
So in the next
In other words, when's the ACE train finally coming?
Sure. In the next presentation, Dan Levitt with ACE will talk about the ACE train timeline. For the transit center project, it should be done by the end of 2023. So just hold tight for a bit.
I'm sorry. What? I missed that last number. 2020 what?
So 2023 will be is the anticipated completion of the construction of the transit center. ACE train, the ACE train project will be talked about here in the next item, where ACE will talk about the timeline for ACE coming to Modesto.
Okay, I'll just hold my horses. Thanks.
There you go.
All right. Any comments from the public regarding this agenda item number 2? I see some hands up, but I don't know if they're regarding this agenda item. It's difficult to tell. I don't believe that they are regarding this item. So any comments from the council regarding this item? Councilmember Madrigal, did you have a comment about this item?
No, I'll lower my hand.
All right.
Mayor Richard Anderson may have a comment on this item because
All right.
out of all the ones that I saw there, I would think if anybody has a comment, it would be him.
All right. Richard, do you have a comment surrounding this particular agenda item?
Yes, I do.
Great.
It's actually a project dear to my heart, and it's exciting that this is happening. My comment is I'm hoping sincerely that the bathroom in there is going to be available 24 hours a day, because it will have a huge impact on enhancing the lives of our homeless. And I've looked into this bathroom stuff a lot, and it'll help the businesses too. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. All right, any comments from the council regarding this particular item? Seeing none, do I have a motion to consider accepting an informational report on the Modesto Transportation Service?
These are the presentation.
So moved.
Excuse me.
The staff report says, that was the confusing part, that it said motion.
Right, I asked for clarification on that, so that's all right, no problem.
No.
All right, who made the motion?
Second. I don't know.
Tony?
Tony, did you make the motion?
Yeah, I said so moved if I needed.
All right, I'm sorry, I did not hear you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Madrigal, a second by Councilmember Ricky. I will ask for a vote, or let me see, is this something that City Clerk Lopez will?
It's a first for me, so, yeah. So, council members, Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Madrigal,
Aye.
Councilmember Ricky,
Aye.
Zalaki,
Aye.
Canoyer,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much. All right, item number 3, presentation by Dan Levitt regarding the Altamont Corridor Express ACE service to Modesto. This is a presentation only, it looks like. Thank you.
Good evening. Mayor and City Council, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Appreciate this opportunity to give you an update of the Valley Rail program, which includes getting the ACE rail service to Modesto. If you could go to the next slide. This figure really shows you our what we call our Valley Rail program, which is the extension of ACE to both Modesto and then ultimately down to Merced and up to Sacramento as well. In addition, it's a joint program with the San Joaquins. We are the owner-operator of the ACE rail service. We're also the managing agency for the San Joaquins. And the Valley Rail program is a joint program to expand ACE and San Joaquin service. Each of the yellow dots you see on this figure are a new station that's going to be developed as part of this program. You go to the next slide. I should note, we've received over the last 4 years about $1.3 billion, and I do want to really thank Modesto's support for this program over the years. The support we've gotten throughout Stanislaus in general, Stanislaus County, has been very, very important for us being able to move this project forward. This slide shows you the route for the ACE trains coming down to Modesto and then down to Merced. We're doing this in 2 phases. The green is the first phase, which is fully environmentally cleared. We are in the midst of doing the final design, and we are fully committed to having the first train running no later than 2023 for that. And we'll work with Adam and the city to make sure everything is coordinated so that we're able to come to the station when the station's ready for ACE to be there. The environmental work is out now, a draft environmental document for the Series to Merced extension that was released last week. We are in the midst now of the public comment period for that and are expecting our board to be able to adopt that no later than the fall, but maybe even earlier, depending upon the amount of comments that we receive. We're looking to start service to Merced, we hope, by around 2025, but sort of 2026 at the latest, to get ACE all the way down to Merced. If we go to the next slide. This is a figure that Adam used. We've been working very closely with Adam and his team, as well as other city staff and their consultants and our consulting team to really make sure that the design for our portion of the station with the platforms all works together with the work the city is doing to rehabilitate the existing transit center. We're working to make sure that it all works together as one facility and also that we're being very sensitive to make sure that it also looks like one facility as well. You go to the next slide. This figure shows you how our platforms will integrate in with the transit center. And one of the sort of big changes that we've had to make is that when we originally proposed this, we were expecting to only have our platform on the east side of the right-of-way that would connect into the transit center. In working with UP and in getting our agreement with UP, it became clear that we really need to be required to have platforms on both sides of the right-of-way, which is shown on this figure. If you go to the next slide, it shows it a little easier to see. So we will have platforms on both sides, and they'll go pretty much the whole length between K and I Street. And as by having two platforms on each side of the right-of-way, we do need to have a requirement from UP is to also have a pedestrian overcrossing sort of in the middle part of where the station will be as shown in this figure. And that will not be the only place that you can cross over. You also could cross over at both K Street and I Street, but we needed the pedestrian overcrossing for the rare times when there might be a train, like a freight train going through that would happen to be blocking both of the other two roads. And so you have access to both sides of the rail right-of-way. You go to the next slide. This just shows you a little more closely. This is not a final design, but just gives you an idea where we are looking to try to make this fit very much into the look and feel of the transit center, and so that it will look really like a true component of an overall facility. Go to the next slide. Did want to talk with you about a couple other key things that have been going on with our overall program. We've been very busy during this pandemic. Obviously, it's changed public transportation a lot during this time, but we've been making good progress on moving forward. And one of those things I wanted to highlight was we were able to secure during this pandemic another $120 million for the Stockton grade separation project. And this is going to eliminate the worst freight rail bottleneck in the western US, which is located just south of downtown Stockton. This is where the BNSF and UP tracks cross. If you go to the next slide. This is a simulation of what that will look like, where you see the aerial structure. We're going to be taking the UP track and elevating it over the BNSF track. This will be just east of where the existing UP track are. And the reason of bringing this to your attention is that this is an important project, not just for Stockton and San Joaquin County, but this is really a mega regional project. It will help keep our trains on time. In addition, probably most importantly for future service, we were constrained at how many trains we could run through the existing Stockton Diamond. By building this project, we are eliminating that constraint, and this will enable us to continue to increase the amount of ACE trains to Sacramento, to the Bay Area, and the San Joaquin's trains to Sacramento and the Bay Area as well. So it's a very, very key piece of our overall program for Valley Rail. Next slide. This figure just shows you how our Valley Rail program really fits in and integrates with high-speed rail's efforts, and particularly the Merced to Bakersfield interim service, which is expected to start operating in 2030. We are extending our ACE trains all the way down to Merced and will connect with high-speed rail. We will be truncating the San Joaquins. Today, the San Joaquins go all the way down to Bakersfield, but we'll be truncating the San Joaquins, and so that the San Joaquins and ACE and high-speed rail will all come together at a common station in Merced. And so you can see, if you go to the next slide, that for high-speed rail, that the section from Merced to Bakersfield will not be some sort of isolated network. It will be part of an overall statewide network that connects to rail from Merced north to both the Bay Area and Sacramento, but also to the San Joaquins through a bus service throughout the rest of the state, really making it so passengers can go throughout California with a single ticket. If you go to the next slide. Did want to show you up north as well. We've completed the environmental for our service extension up to Sacramento. We are using a different line that has been used previously for San Joaquin's trains to get to Sacramento, which is the blue line that you see. That's the line that San Joaquin's traditionally run on. But we will be running on what you see as the purple and green line. That's the Sacramento subdivision to the west, closer to I-5. And this route doesn't have any stations, so we'll have to be building new stations. We're also doing improvements to the line. We've got that fully cleared, with the exception of the Elk Grove station, where we have to come back and do some additional environmental clearance. One thing to highlight on this route is that it does have the opportunity to go past Sacramento, where our current route takes us to an Atoma station that provides a connection to the Sacramento International Airport. We'll have a shuttle that takes people to the airport. And then we are starting the planning work this year on being able to see if we could, in the future, extend the route even further north. The line continues on to Yuba and Sutter counties and even beyond to Butte County. And so we're looking at the opportunities to extend the line further in the future. Next slide. And we have a lot of information on our websites. And at this point, I'd be happy to open up the comments. But again, I just really want to thank all the support for you, for all the support we've gotten over the last several years to move this project forward.
Thank you very much for that presentation. Any questions from council members?
I had one.
All right, Councilmember Ricky.
Just quickly, I think I missed, when did you say the ACE train was starting in Modesto? I missed it.
We originally, we had a goal of trying to get in by 2022, but what I said was 2023, and really that's what's looking to be, that's our commitment. We've always said that we fully are committed to getting the first train in by 2023, and that is what fits best with the schedule, working with the city.
No, thank you.
All righty, any questions from the public regarding this item number 3? Seeing none, any comments from the council? Seeing none, thank you very much. That was a presentation only.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, next is miscellaneous legislation and appointments. Number 4, consider approving the appointment of Gabriella Guarini to the Modesto Convention and Visitors Bureau Board of Directors for a 2-year term, retroactive to January 1st, 2021 through December 31st, 2022. Councilmember Canoyer?
No, I have no comment.
All right.
But I'll make a motion when it comes to it, to accept her.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Canoyer, a second from Councilmember Wright. City Clerk, if we could have roll call on this item.
Council members Escutia Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Ricky.
Aye.
Zalaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Next, on to public comment period. If anyone has wishes to speak on any item under public comment, this is for items that are not on the council agenda this evening, and you have 3 minutes to speak. First of all, we have 3 people present here. Miguel Donoso.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members of the council. I have 3 issues, and I want to mention to you regard to the possibility and to recommend to have a police review committee. In specific, we fund money. That way the committee can have effect in regard to the issue of the police problem that we have for the last 15 to 20 years. In the last 3 or 4 years is having a big problems in our community. So I recommend and ask to the board, to the city council to consider the panel review committee for this city. The second issue is in regard to the race and ethnicity equity in the city. I don't know if we have already a committee for that, but I feel that we need to have equal balance, not only representation in the departments, but at the same time the committees and employees, that the city receive any fund or federal funds, especially the president said the president of the United States said recommend very strongly already have I think approved for the Congress and the Senate to have the ethnicity and race equity in all the funds for the federal funds. The other one is the need to have a report in the park in regard to this homeless. We have a big issue and big problems in the different parts of the city, especially in park like the 4th Street in G. I think it's very sad to see how the homeless have problems with the police, even in the residents around the park. And that's not the only park we have. We see the park in different parks in the city. The homeless already control not only the environmental area or the physical area, but at the same time, how the citizens cannot participate in the park because the homeless is there. So I don't see no report coming from the city or the police department in regard to the issue of the homeless. I know that the police department have a lot of citations and taking away many part of the homeless area, but I think we need to talk about that issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Right, next I have Sebastian Jones.
Well, man, don't start my clock. Let me get my introduction. I ain't been down here in a while. Nobody didn't tell me it was open house for people. I just want to thank everybody that, just about everybody here, nobody passed away. That's good. I want to thank God that we're here. And now you can start my clock. Good afternoon, Mayor and City Councilman, Lord. Well, I'm here. I'm going to speak tonight on behalf of what we have going here. My name is Sebastian Jones. I am the Vice President of the Progressive Democratic Club. I am reading this statement regarding Civil Oversight Review Board for law enforcement here in Modesto. Modesto citizen has witnessed Modesto police officer misconduct and extreme use of force for many years. It's time for them to be uncovered. While there is a sign of relief with the news that Lieutenant LaMancha was terminated about time and will be charged with manslaughter. She'll be charged with more. And the death of Travis Savers, an innocent man. There is still more work to be done in our system. This established a systematic racism. While we would like to believe that not all law enforcement are bad cops, we clearly recognize good police officers, because a bad police officer means that is covered for an overlooked other officer. You know, he overlooked other officers in misconduct. A trusted law enforcement department is much more effective law enforcement organization. The Modesto community has spoken and demanded an increase of transparent and review of police brutality. That's sad. The current structure has police, city police, investigating police, city police. That don't even make any sense. That's just like me investigating my son. He gonna be found not guilty. Followed by a district attorney being responsible for charging, is in charge for charging for police officer with crime. That ain't gonna happen too much. Followed by the district attorney charging. This is an emotional conflict of interest and has failed our community. And the example of Travis Stevens, anyone who knows how the DA built a case and understand that there is two very little cooperation and intimidation relationship between the DA and police. It is incomprehensible to expect the DA to work with officer one day, then turn around and charge officer with a crime the next day. This is demonstrating in the case of Lieutenant Lamenta being charged with manslaughter while his action clearly constitute first and second degree murder. Modesto Progressive Democratic Club demanded that you establish a civil oversight review board for the city of Modesto. It doesn't hurt. This is a more effective way to remedy the lack of trust we are faced with and previous damage from occurring. This should only be supported by every citizen, city council members, and the mayor, but it should also embraced by the law enforcement. The Civil Oversight Review Board is the fastest way for officers to attain the support they clearly need and an extreme voice to recognize and help for officers when they show signs of trauma, stress, to support officers in false allegation claims, to focus on areas of need for further department training. I'm almost done. Many communities across the country has successfully engaged in this review board for their law enforcement, and many of them have found between the community and law enforcement to be an advantage. We support the Stanislaus Chapter ACLU, NAACP, Faith in the Valley, an effort to establish a civil review board. They have done this research and developed a template that would work well in our community. We support this model, and I ask you working in order to bring a development on this immediately. And I thank you for your time, and I'll say this on my closing to every city council. Please, vote your own conscience. Don't vote because the next person or that person. I have seen that many times as I've been coming down here. It's sad. You represent the people, whether you're wrong or not. Mayor, I thank you. City Council, I thank you. Let's get this done. What is it going to hurt? You can always terminate it if it doesn't work. You're the power. Remember, you're for the people. You see the world is watching. I'm an African American. It's time to quit. If we gotta set these boundaries in line for these police officers that think the badge is their power, we got ordinary people that sits on the board and they'll make a call instead of a police officer investigating another police officer.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
For being here. Teresa Gamboa? Got it. Thank you. All right. I see Allison Seaver.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I am Trevor Seaver's little sister, and I am calling into regards of the disgusting, absolutely disgusting comment that council member Bill Zalowski, or however you pronounce his name, said about you need to raise your children correctly and to respect police officers. If that was true, why did my brother get shot when he had his hands up? My mother did nothing but an amazing job raising us. How about you say the parents need to raise people who aren't going to become an officer and go and murder innocent people. You need to get your head out of the sand because you are a part of this problem. If you don't see what you said was a problem, then you need to step down because you are not for the people. You have a very closed mind. You need to do what's right and say that you do not think that, and if you do, fine, but step down. And the chief of police, Gillespie, you think the officers don't need de-escalation training? Where was the de-escalation for my brother? Lamatia got out within 3 seconds. Never said he was an officer. The officers that arrived, did they go and give my brother immediate attention while he screamed out that he was dying? No. There's so many times that there has been no de-escalation, and you guys want to sit here and worry about some bus in the ACE train? With how the police are going, they're going to murder everyone before they could even use that. Get your head out of the sand and start working for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene Ruiz.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is Darlene Ruiz, Trevor Seaver's mom. I'm coming before the City Council asking you to hire an independent police auditor, preferably Michael Janacco, a former federal prosecutor and national recognized expert in police reform and accountability. He also served in our town hall meeting in February. I believe our city is in dire need of reform and accountability to rebuild and restructure the trust in our community. I'm also asking for the city to implement a civilian review board with subpoena power. We need a civilian review board and police auditor, both independent of the police. They must be insulated to have any power. The police should not be allowed to police themselves. The police department works directly with the DA office and the coroner's office, which is ran by the sheriff's department. This is a conflict of interest and nearly impossible for civilians to get justice. In virtually every case, a history of misconduct has gone unaddressed and underdressed by the agency for which the officer worked. Had Lamatia been reprehended instead of rewarded for his bloody record stacked up over the years of 5 civilians killed, in likelihood my son Trevor Seaver would still be alive today. The time is now for a civilian oversight of Modesto Police Department before there was more blood on their hands of innocent civilians killed by officers that are sworn to peace and to serve and protect our city. The department needs to be transparent and rebuild trust and the best system of preserving and protecting. Chief Brandon Gillespie, I'm appalled that you said that you believe your department has proper training and de-escalation practices. Your department has proven this over and over. This is exactly why we need mental health response such as CAHOOTS. We can't fix a problem if we're not willing to address it. Councilmember Bill Zalowski, I'm disgusted, just as Bianca Lopez told you, with your comment that mom and dads out there need to train their kids to obey the police officers and let them do their jobs. He may have to arrest you if you try to challenge him. It can save your life. Wouldn't you rather go home? Trevor did not have that option despite Trevor complying with Officer Lamatia. He's buried in Escalante at St. John's Cemetery. Please tell me how Trevor didn't comply with Officer Lamatia. blaming the victims instead of holding the police department accountable for police brutality is disgusting. Step down if you don't want to make our city better. Thank you.
Thank you. Julissa Ruiz Ramirez.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Julissa. I want to speak on a few points. First, I want to ask if there's an update on Spanish translations for the council meetings, and also ask for the city budget hearings to be held at a different time. The current time is not accessible to folks that work. I also want to ask what are any updates for Alonso Nunez, who was brutalized by MPD, and what you are all doing as council members. I want to speak in favor of an independent review board and auditor, just as Darlene spoke and expressed support of. And finally, I want to talk about cahoots. As I mentioned during previous council meetings, about my brother and his experience, I will briefly summarize for the sake of our new mayor. Essentially, my brother has mental health issues and police have been called to our home on various occasions. On one occasion, one police officer told me that he would not hesitate to shoot my brother while my brother was having a mental breakdown in his living room. If this program would have been available, it would have saved my brother a lot of traumas. And obviously, the police are not equipped to handle mental health situations. This is not to say that we need more funding for more trainings. There are statistics that show that more trainings for police departments, like de-escalation and things like that, are not useful because police don't end up using these trainings, as we have seen with Trevor Sieber. I'm also angry about what I heard Councilmember Soslaki mention. How can we educate our children to obey police to not be killed? That's absolutely disgusting. How do you tell a victim to obey their abuser? We've obeyed and have been getting killed. Do you not understand that? What point of privilege must you have to be in to say that to our communities, to say that to Trevor Sieber's family, who is still grieving, who has to keep coming to these meetings to relive their traumas and speak in favor of all of these things, like independent review board, an auditor, cahoots, alternatives to calling the police, so y'all can see our humanity? What the fuck is that? We've obeyed and have been getting killed. We've obeyed and we have been getting brutalized. I also want to speak about a comment that Benny Canoyer said during our community barbecue that basically said, I'm not going to speak in favor of anything that should have or should not have happened. I'm not going to excuse the police behavior. We must hold all of you accountable. You must support these alternatives to calling the police. And finally, I want to introduce my mother, who will be speaking in Spanish.
Buenas tardes, soy Rosa María. Apoyo un programa como Kahoot para ayudar a las personas con problemas de salud mental. Mi hijo necesita ayuda y en vez de ayudar, los policías le dijeron a mi hija que le dispararían. Los traumas que tiene mi hijo no los tendría si hubiera un programa como este. Hablo de mi carro por miedo de que si me escucha tenga otra crisis. Estoy en solidaridad con la familia de Trevor y de Alonso. Gracias.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Point clarification, Madam Chairman. Did everybody understand what the lady said? For the benefit of
Edgar, did you get it?
Yeah, I got
Okay,
it.
Edgar.
I believe I got most of that.
Sure.
If I may translate briefly.
Correct. So Edgar's going to help us here.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
I believe I caught everything, if I may. Believe was stated. Expressing support for the Cahoots program to support mental health, and especially in instances like that of her son, who suffered a challenging experience due to a mental health issue, and Cahoots would have certainly helped address that, and is also here in support of the family of Trevor Seaver, and I believe I caught everything. Was the
She's speaking in her car for fear that her son might overhear this conversation and be upset by it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Edgar, for that translation, and thank you, Mr. Donoso and Mr. Jones, for bringing that to my attention. Next speaker, Micah or Mika.
Hello.
Hi there, we can hear you.
I actually live in Contra Costa County, and I learned of a terrible murder of Trevor Seaver, and I have come out all the way to Modesto to show support to his family because I am a mother, and I cannot imagine what his mother has to live on a daily basis, knowing that nothing is being done to hold this police officer accountable. There is a list of people that have been murdered, and this is who you have representing your city. This is disgusting. You're representing your city with a murderer, a cold-blooded murderer. And for that councilman that everybody's struggling to say his name, I won't even make the effort. But to say those disgusting words, he ought to be ashamed of himself. He ought to step down of being a city council member. That's outright just disgusting. It made me sick to my stomach to hear that he would feel that the victim is at fault. To say such words as to parents teach their children, maybe these officers need to be psychiatrically evaluated before obtaining a position where they have access to a fire weapon to murder. Perhaps your funds should be allocated in a different manner rather than these police that are over-policing. Something needs to be done to assist people that are in a mental health crisis. Mental health crisis is not a crime. I suffer mental health crisis. I'm a woman that has mental issues. And how scary is it to know that in a moment of crisis, I can't even call for help from those who are here supposedly to protect and serve. Y'all ought to be ashamed of yourselves. Y'all haven't even apologized to this family. No extension has been made to this family to console them. On the contrary,
30 seconds.
Y'all have made them out for them to be the bad guys. You're being watched. Contra Costa County is watching you. Other counties are watching. We are seeing what Modesto is about. La Mantilla needs to go. He needs to be gone. Y'all ought to be ashamed if this isn't enough community members and outside of your community people calling in to let you know, something is very wrong. Abolish the police. There's no reform. There's no room to repair. The system needs to be abolished.
Thank you. Next, we have Kyle Seaver.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
First of all, I'm Kyle Seaver. I'm Trevor Seaver's brother. City Council, y'all should be ashamed of yourself. I've been coming on ever since my brother was murdered. I've heard y'all sing happy birthday to multiple people that have passed away from natural causes. Trevor's birthday just passed on April 24th. I have not heard y'all sing happy birthday yet. So I'm gonna be on the call the rest of the time. I would love to hear y'all sing happy birthday to my brother who was murdered by a police officer who's murdered multiple people, multiple unarmed people, and the lack of your accountability, the lack of Modesto Police Department's accountability, the lack of Stanislaus County District Attorney accountability, my brother was murdered. I would also like an update on the mural for Trevor. I would also like an update on the statue for Trevor. I would also like December 29th to be Trevor Sieber Day. I would like it to be a day that we could honor my brother and we could make the community aware of police brutality. Councilmember Bill Zalaki, shame on you. How dare you? Don't you ever think that you can make comments towards my family and it's just gonna go away. That passive aggressive attack on my family is not okay, and every council member, y'all need to stand up for us. That is not acceptable. Bill Zalaki needs to step down and he needs to be replaced tomorrow. We also need cahoots to be implemented. I don't know why y'all keep running around the idea, it needs to be implemented. We also need an independent review board. We also need a civilian police oversight committee. We also need to improve our police hiring practices. We also need Brandon Gillespie to step down from his position for slandering and putting out misinformation about Trevor, lying about things that Trevor did not say to try to justify his murder that would never be justifiable. LaMattia did not give Trevor a chance. LaMattia parked his car in a location where there's no visibility to Trevor. He drove his car with visibility and went and parked
30
it where
seconds.
there's no visibility. LaMattia did not stop when he saw Trevor. LaMattia did not park his car when he saw Trevor. LaMattia did not turn on his sirens when he saw Trevor. LaMattia did not turn on his lights when he saw Trevor. LaMattia never gave Trevor a chance. LaMattia parked where there's no visibility to Trevor. LaMattia took off in a full sprint, yelling out, "Zebra, 5, 2, 2, 3, which means stake out. He never stuck out. He went in ambush. Number 2 means urgent. 3 means emergency. So he was calling out urgent and emergency before he even ran and shot Trevor because he knew exactly what he was going to do. So shame on all y'all. Stop disrespecting my family. We're the victims. The victims of y'all not doing your job. LaMattia shouldn't have been on the force after he killed Kim Jackson in 2016. Him, Alex Bettis, Michael Callahan, and the DA hid the information that they used a breaching round instead of a beanbag round. Have some accountability.
Thank you, Kyle. Ramon Rodriguez.
Good evening, Mrs. Mayor and Honorable City Council. I am addressing again, everyone can hear me?
Yes.
I am again addressing about police violence, and I'm at the Vacaville City Council at the same time addressing the same issue because a Vacaville police officer beat an autistic kid. He's a victim of a crime. And you know what a police officer did? He beat the kid, the teen with autism. This is similar to what Trevor Sieber suffered by LaMattia, and the same with Kim Jackson and Francisco Moran, by the same officer. And also, I am asking what the hell is going on, and Alonso still haven't got justice. Officer Espinosa, Carranza, Colum, and another officer are still on the job and they're not being held accountable. Where's the justice for Alonso and his family? Why the officers are still on the job and not being held accountable for beating Alonso severely and traumatizing his family? Shame. And he's facing charges of resisting arrest, but he is a victim of police oppression. And also, I've been really insulted by Zalowski's comment about advising parents to respect the police. That's not advice for the 21st century. The 1950s is different because police officers back then didn't have tasers, the AR-15s, or bulletproof vests. This is white privilege at its worst. This is advice that works for white kids who respect the police. But did it work for Trevor Seaver and other victims of police violence? No. Stolovsky should be ashamed for gaslighting the entire public with that advice, because we're still seeing police killing people every day. Micaiah Bryant, Dante Wright, Adam Toledo. Have you guys not heard about them? They complied, but they were killed by police. And I'm getting tired of addressing various city council meetings about police violence, and you guys are just sitting their asses and not doing nothing. When will Alonso get his justice? When will these officers be fired, prosecuted, and charged with assault, mayhem, and kidnapping of an innocent immigrant
30 seconds.
man? And I'm getting really upset. We need justice now, and if you guys don't do anything about the police accountability, we'll keep bugging and bugging. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next I see is Stephen Allen.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. I would like to address the recurrent contempt with which the leadership of this city has responded to concerned citizens that are 100% in the right to raise their voices. Ms. Knoyer, I'm sitting here watching you on my computer screen earlier while Julissa was speaking, and you're shaking your head and you're smirking at her. I'm not sure if maybe she quoted you a little off and it wasn't verbatim, but I was there at that barbecue, and I will speak for myself and say your words disgusted me. Because the first thing out of your mouth, I'm not going to talk about politics. Shame on you. You lead this community, and that's how you lead. That's how you start off. You want to share words with a community of that nature. There were so many people gathered that day that you didn't stick around to talk to, that have been devastated by police violence. Shame on you. That's contempt. You have no right to treat our righteous concerns about the crap going on in this city with that kind of nonsense. Shame on you. Councilmember Zalaki, obviously you need to step down, pick up your things, and get the hell out of the building. Shame on you. Modesto, California has a lot of people with mental health issues. They don't need to be led by some quack like yourself who gets up there and says blah, blah, blah about crazy people. Sir, did your parents raise you to encourage murderers to keep getting away with it? To shoot people for shits and giggles? I should hope not. Shame on you. How do you like it when people pointed at you? You are a disgrace. Step down now. Get your things, take a hike. You cannot lead this community after acting like such a jackass in a public way. Mr. Lopez, I want to know if this kind of contempt is the sort of city that you're trying to run. You sit over there quietly every week. What are you doing about this crap? I want to hear from you. I want to know whether that sort of contempt is okay with you, and if that's the kind of tone you'd like to set in Modesto, California. I will be sticking around, and I would love to hear your comments.
30 seconds.
Next, I see Marla Seaver. Next, I see E.M.
Hi, my name is Emily Boone, and I'd like to just go on the record and say I endorse and agree with all of the previous comments regarding Trevor Seaver and the other victims of police violence. I am demanding that a police review committee ran by civilians to decrease the obvious conflict of interest, which is created by police policing themselves. I also demand that there is a implementation of protocol for decertification and prosecution of these killer cops. I demand that review of cahoots is put into place. Not only is it a fiscal benefit, saving over $45 million per year when in place by Eugene, Oregon. It also has favorable outcomes for the community, keeping community members safe, providing a space for mental health crisis to be properly handled. I'm also calling for the prosecution and conviction and imprisonment of Officer Joseph Lamantia. He's responsible for the murder of not only Trevor Seaver, but also Francesco Moran in 2010, Omar Villagomez in 2016, Kim Jackson in 2016, Garrett Schmidt in 2016, David Cummings in 2020, very well before Trevor Seaver, of course. I'd also like to mirror that the world is watching you. I'm a resident of Kern County, and I have heard about this case from my friends down in LA County. I support the Seaver family fully. Just from hearing about the way things have been handled or not really speaks poorly on the community review based on your council members.
30
solely.
seconds.
I see the community coming together for Trevor Seaver, the actual community members. It is crazy to think that the community members are, just asking to be safe and have safe implementation of proper community services, and you call yourself council members and community outreach people when you're providing just the opposite.
Thank you for your comments. Richard Anderson?
Oh my, I feel like I'm going to be a Pollyanna, but I'd like to make some comments about some positive things about Modesto. Richard Anderson, Modesto. I'll read it quick. I'm hoping that since the city is getting over $43 million from the feds, some of that money can be used to foster public media in Modesto. There is so much good news, we're not hearing it tonight, but happening in Modesto we need to extol. Like today's announcement from the Chamber of Commerce about our Stanislaus Community Foundation with funding by the Porges family launched the Profit with Purpose project. This helps 11 important local nonprofits. That's inspiring. But how do our residents learn about these things? I subscribe to the Chamber of Commerce, so they sent it to me, but we need to get out to people. Also on today's council agenda is a proposal to foster quote-unquote brand publicity for Modesto. A good idea, sure, but it doesn't mention using existing local public access like the Peace Life Center's KCBP radio station and MyTV 26. To quote it, brand introduction via social platforms, VJ shall develop content templates and set up primary social platform pages on channels where people use a lot. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. Good, but what about investing in our local public access? Another existing local medium is Eric Kane's excellent blog, The Valley Citizen. It's worth subscribing to it. His current article is about how Beardbrook Park Village and then Moe's and loving people were so critical in freeing Chuck and Deanna from lives of addiction and homelessness. I videoed this interview that Eric made of these newly restored citizens. The URLs of the videos are at the end of his article. I hope you'll look at them. They speak of how Mose was key to their redemption. Housed, they could finally sleep securely at night. They had constant attention by powerful people. Sergeant Hammond, Dean Dodd, Red Cloud,
30
Christina
seconds.
Kenny, AA meetings, and others. Soon, Chuck's mother, also homeless, moved into a tent next to them under the 9th Street Bridge, that's Mose. And when they went to their cold turkey and stopped their drugs, for 2 weeks, she brought them food. They emerged, I'm sorry, stop it for a second, listen. They emerged redeemed people. They got married, both have jobs, and have kept clean. So what's my point? How are people going to hear such inspiring stories? We need to showcase the really good things happening in Modesto, like the impact of Mose. We can do so much better if the city also invests into making all of our public access, P, E, and G, work for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Joseph Stewart?
I have a question, Madam Mayor, about this last speaker, or for this last.
I prefer that we keep the comments for the public. This is their time. We need to listen. I know how you can contact Richard. If you want to talk to me, you can ask him any questions. I'm sure he'd be open to it.
Okay, I'll save it during council comments. It's related to his comment about public access. It was more of a question for staff, I guess, but I'll bring it up then.
Thank you. Joseph Stewart?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Hi. Yeah, my name is Joseph Stewart. I'm here to talk in regards to comments made by Bill Zaslocki. I myself am a parent. My parents have raised me to obey the law and police officers, and being around the Seaver/Cerise family, I've heard them say over and over again how much faith they used to have in the police force. So for you, Zaslocki, to say that parents need to teach their children better is ignorant and wrong. You are inadvertently accusing every single parent out there of doing the opposite of what you're saying. And as a parent, I'm not okay with that. So you need to rethink what you said, and next time you want to talk about your opinion, don't, because it's exactly what it is. It's your opinion, and you need to either keep it that way or step down as a representative of the city of Modesto. Our society, it's not the same as it was back in the 50s. So stop trying to compare it to that. It's not the same. As a nation, as a country, we have amendments. We have the ability to change laws and the way that we think about police force and things like that. So we need to be able to act on that and freely express that. So open up your eyes, please. That's all I ask of you. On top of that, I'd also like to demand police reform within the city of Modesto and implementation of programs similar to Cahoots and a national review board for instances regarding death by police officers, because they shouldn't be reviewing themselves. That's not okay. We don't ask doctors to review other doctors. We ask review boards for that reason, because very similar, they can easily be biased, and that needs to not be okay. Trevor Seaver's death was a tragedy that is in no way justified, and City Council needs to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Cicely Williams?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. You said that correctly. That never happens. It gets butchered on a daily basis. I'm calling in support of the Seaver family. Trevor was one of my best friends since we were little kids. So the comment about how basically how he was raised hit me hard too, because I know his mommy and she was an amazing mommy, still is. So that disgusted me, made me sick. One. And two, my friend was murdered. He was murdered, and all I really hear about and see, even through this whole meeting, was, granted, stuff happens in life, but I could give two shits about a new ACE train or about anything else coming into there when what we really need is a police reform. We need a national review board. We do need all this, and granted, you probably think I'm piggybacking off everybody else, but it's all the truth. And if you're hearing it from so many people, me being in Fresno also, it's just kind of ridiculous. His death will never be justified. Sorry for the horrible voice, but this is hard for me. All I can ask you is if any of you are parents to just think about things, because how things are said and how they come across, I know if any of you were in those shoes, you would feel the same way as I know Darlene is feeling right now. And she did not deserve any of that, neither does the family. They, like everybody else already stated, again, Trevor was murdered. The officer went with the intent to kill. He did not even identify Trevor, obviously, which is a horrible thing. So I don't even understand how he was still on the force, like everybody else said, and what we're doing about it if we're still dancing around it and sitting here talking about trains in the next 3 years. When what we really, really need is to feel safe in Modesto and feel like people like me that have bipolar depression, if I'm ever manic, my mom can call and she can feel safe. That's what Darlene and the whole family did not feel. They called for help, and her son did not get to go home, like what's his name mentioned. So all I ask is that you guys sit and actually think about this and talk about it instead of on to the next, let's build something else for Modesto to make it look good, because y'all aren't looking good right now.
30 seconds.
That's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anne Marie G.
Anne Marie Grant, I'm calling in support of the Seaver family. I lost my brother to police in Reno, Nevada. During a mental health crisis, he was hogtied and asphyxiated to death. I want to extend my heartfelt sympathies to the family and Trevor's friends and loved ones. You all should be ashamed of yourself, everyone you that sit on the board, especially the council member who made the comment that if people taught their children just to obey police, that they would have a better outcome. That's disgusting. It's disgusting to victimize this family over and over again when all they are doing is crying out for justice for their child and in hopes that no other family will know this pain. 67 people have died during interactions with police in Modesto, California since the year 2000 per fatalencounters.org. It's Trevor was complying. Trevor obeyed the officer. Trevor was unarmed. Trevor was not breaking the law. Accountability needs to lie with Modesto PD. Chief Brandon Gillespie also said in the meeting his police department is well trained on de-escalation. Well, then if that is true, then I can only be led to believe that the police department is full of a bunch of murderers, because there was no de-escalation. If they're trained in it, why aren't they using it? We equip them with guns, we equip them with stab vests, with armored vehicles, with shields, with robots, and they're still out killing community members. It's time for oversight, transparency, and accountability. And if you folks on this board aren't willing to do it, then the community needs to vote your asses out. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next is Tiffany Tabares.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I also am here in support of Trevor Seaver and his family. I noticed on Facebook the date of his death is 12/29, and it's also the date of my son's birth. They also have in common that they are both killed by police officers. If you don't understand why people are yelling at you, it's because something has to be done. We are not city council members, and we're here because something needs to be done. Things are changing. You can't just sit there and listen to us and then go away and come back next month. That's not where we're at. This officer has murdered several people. You need to check into this. You can talk to the people to find out what really happened and make this stop. If you don't, there will be another murder, and that blood will be on your hands because you did nothing about it. With my son, when you're talking about raising him, I tried very, very hard to raise him right. His father died from cancer, and I'm sure that didn't help. But then when he was 18, he went into the service, and he served in the Navy for 4 years, and he came back broken. And I couldn't get services for him. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed, and we are begging you, we are pleading with you to not walk away from this meeting and do nothing. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ray Ruiz.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, though I should, I'm not going to address the absolutely idiotic comment that a councilman said. It's just kind of embarrassing that a councilman in the city I live in would even say that. But, you know, I want to address last February when you had a town hall meeting, and I heard and was very impressed by Michael Giannacco of the Office Independent Review Group, the OIR group. His team can help and does help do comprehensive reviews of law enforcement agencies all over the country. He can help Modesto with training, policy assessment. He can be the guy that helps us design our civilian review board. We don't know how to do it. We need somebody like this, an expert like this, to point us in the right direction. And then from there, you know, other agencies like Cahoots can come in and play. But we need somebody to come in and give us some direction on how to get started on all of this stuff. It doesn't matter what it costs. If it saves one life, it's paid for itself in infinite time over. Infinite time. Cities like Anaheim, Burbank, Chicago, Denver, Portland. That's just a small group of the long list of cities that this team has helped. And I'd sure like the city of Modesto to look at something like that before they start looking at, you know, fixing up a bus station. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Kayla Alcala.
Can you guys hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay. I am Kayla Alcala. I am the cousin of Trevor Seaver, and I also live in Modesto. And I just wanted to kind of add on to what everyone was saying. I think that, you know, there's a lot of frustration today because I feel like my family and people that are in support of my family are not feeling heard. And that's what makes frustration. So it's really difficult, you know, when you're trying to fight for programs like Cahoots and all these things, and then you have, you know, people like the council members say stuff like that. And it's even more frustrating because, like, can you guys hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
That's all right. It seemed like there was like a little pause, but we could hear you.
Okay.
Good.
So I think that it's a little bit frustrating because when you hear things like, you know, based off of what you were raised and stuff, it just is kind of a slap in the face because my cousin did obey, and, you know, our family has law enforcement, you know, we have law enforcement officers in our family, and we are, in support of good law enforcement officers, and we do raise, you know, our family to obey, you know, officers. And it's just like, it's like she's fighting, you know, my aunt especially, you know, she's fighting, you know, for these things and all the family, and it's really devastating to hear that because it's like they already blamed themselves enough, you know. I'm sure they've replayed, you know, Trevor's death multiple times and how things could have gone differently, like maybe not calling the police because obviously the trust is broken. And it's like, and then hearing that, it's just like a slap in the face, and it's just frustrating. And every single time we try to talk about the Cahoots thing, it doesn't seem like it's quite going anywhere. So, and then just with Officer Gillespie, it's just frustrating that he said that he kind of gaslighted the whole issue by saying, you know, that, oh, our officers are trained, and it's like, you're just basically saying that they are trained. Then if it was trained, then why did that happen? You know, like, it should be more like, okay, we're gonna reform and try for, you know, better, like something different. Obviously, what we're doing, you know, needs improvement. So it's like, we want to hear stuff like that. Like, how can we do things differently? Not, oh, well, you know, things are the way they are. It's basically what it feels like. It's, things are the way they are. And it's just, it feels like it's just not going anywhere. We want change. That's why we're all here, you know,
30
doing
seconds.
this and trying to support this. So I just want to put emphasis on the CAHOOTS program and the Civilian Oversight Board, and just people just need to be careful, you know, what they say, because, you know, you guys are council members and people that are of high power in our city, and it's scary, you know, when we don't feel heard or we feel like our loss is not being heard. And so I just want to put emphasis on that, and also just want to end with saying happy birthday to my cousin. I didn't get to go to his event this past weekend because I was seeing my friend actually have, like, figure out what her gender is, and it's like new life is coming in, and then it's like I have to remember that my cousin's life is no longer on this earth, and it's just really sad. So I just want to say happy 30th birthday to my cousin, and I hope that he's watching over us and that we can make some change here in Modesto. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next is Tupac Amure. 3.
Hello?
Hi
Can you hear
there.
me?
Yes.
Okay. First, I want to thank the community for showing out for Trevor and his family. I can't imagine losing somebody to state violence, because the state is really hard to get justice from. Next, I want to acknowledge the land that we are on. This is stolen land. It was built on Black slavery and genocide of indigenous people. And on that, I want to kind of just educate a little further, because I personally believe that abolition is the best way, because police is a slave-catching institution. You cannot reform that identity. It's been proven over and over. And I'm sorry, I know I would like to keep going for this, because this is the beginning. Reforms are the first steps, but we've seen them in places like Chicago, in places like Portland, where reform just is trying to solve the matter after the fact, trying to place the blame on individual cops when it's really a systemic issue. And we have to go, yes, to get that first step is accountability. So I'm all for that, and I love the energy going into that. But I think we also got to understand the history. This is a safeguard institution. It creates superiority complexes in officers. We have to acknowledge the trauma and pain that causes, because it dehumanizes people. That's why cops can go in plain daylight and execute people without a jury or trial. And it doesn't matter what time era you're raised from or where you are from. That is just facts, that you cannot execute people. And it doesn't matter if you respect them or obey them. They shouldn't be able to kill you. If it's mental health, if you just don't feel comfortable listening to them, because they can pull you over and add charges. I've seen many friends and protesters just get charged with stuff after they get pulled over, because they speak up against police, and it hurts police ego to be held accountable. Next, laws do not align necessarily with morality and ethics. Slavery was legal, Jim Crow was legal, segregation was legal, Japanese concentration camps were legal. Right now, there are children in cages because they are illegal. So legality and criminality don't always align with morality and ethics. We have to decolonize our minds, and that's why, like, whatever the council guy said, I'm not gonna touch that. Okay. So I'm all for defunding.
30 seconds.
As long as it leads to abolishment, we need to reimagine safety for all. Once things are abolished, people that have historically never had a voice will have say for mental health, for social programs. Punitive measures are how we try to solve problems now. We try to scare them with jail time or death. We need restorative measures. We need stuff that will heal the community, so so there is less, I guess, wrongdoings. And lastly, I want to say justice for Trevor, justice for Alonso, and anybody who has ever suffered state violence. And I yield my time.
Thank you. Marla Seaver?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Yes, I am Marla Seaver, and I want Mr. Zalaki to remember that name. I am Trevor Seaver's aunt, and I was also a second mother to Trevor. As everybody else has been saying, shame on you. You have no idea what's going on in today's world. Yeah, 50 years ago when you were a kid, that was a much different world. Parents have a lot more to deal with today than your mom and your dad did. But I will tell you one thing. Darlene is the best mother. She had so many kids growing up saying, Darlene, I wish you were my mom. So don't you dare ever make a comment about my family. You don't need to treat your kids or train your kids. You need to train your officers. Because officers that wear a badge think that they're judge, jury, and executioner. If an officer comes up to you and he's got a little pissy attitude, people are going to give him that attitude back. But if he comes up to them and he's being nice and saying, you know, do you understand why I pulled you over? Then most people are going to be nice with them. But cops today, those bad apples are hurting all the good ones, because I support cops. I work with a lot of law enforcement, and all the ones I know are good ones. But it's one like Lamentio who, yes, murdered my nephew. And because of you, Mr. Zalaki, I actually forced myself to watch the tape where he was murdered. And what did this officer say? He did not identify himself. He did not ask Trevor to identify himself. He said, get on the ground twice, and then shot at him. How the heck was anybody, even you, sir, supposed to obey what an officer's telling you when one, he didn't identify himself, and he didn't even ask a question? It's basically get on the ground. So also, I would like to know, how do you explain your actions to his 80-year-old grandmother, who you basically blamed in so many words that my nephew deserved to be shot? My nephew, an unarmed man who had the biggest, kindest heart. And I've heard from so many people who have said what this kid has done. Yes, he has some issues. Yes, we're not all perfect, but he didn't deserve, again, to be murdered. So, are you part of the problem? Are you part of the blue wall that is there to protect murderous cops, serial killer cops? Or are you going to take your job that you are voted into seriously and be here to do things for us, the public? Or are you like the district attorney and part of your campaign is supplemented by the police department, and that's why you're going to think that they're better? Well, just remember, you were voted in. You're there to protect us, and you're to be our voice. However, would you rather protect a cop who continues to murder unarmed civilians? And we will remember that when we go to the polls. And also, the last thing I would like to say is, in 10 years, maybe a little more, a little less, I doubt anybody's going to remember your name, sir, but they will remember Trevor Seaver. So I want you to remember his name, Trevor Seaver. Happy birthday, Trevor. And by the way, my birthday was last week too, but I can't celebrate it because I couldn't celebrate it with the same person I've been celebrating with the last 49 years. So thank you, and you all have a good evening.
Thank you. Next speaker, Lucy.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I want to start out with sharing that I'm actually not even from Modesto. Modesto is, I think, like 2.5 hours away from me. The reason I'm on this call tonight is because I know of Trevor's story. He was murdered by police. I don't remember exactly the date, but he was murdered by police less than 6 months ago, and I came to know the family through a mutual friend. And then when I got to know the story, I'm like, how is it that this murder, or this Joseph Lamantia, he's killed multiple people. I believe it was at least 6, mostly unarmed. And it's just kind of telling of the way that Modesto is being perceived now by outside communities. City Council, I can now tell, hasn't been listening to anything. George Floyd was murdered in summer last year. That was when I came to my racial, I guess, enlightenment. I was raised very colorblind. I'm a white Latina, so I have lived a very privileged life, but not, anyway, besides the point. I need you guys to start listening to your community members and everybody who's on this call, because you guys have been voted in, so you guys are in voluntary positions. So if you guys are coming into this voluntary role to help people, you guys need to be doing so. And if you guys are just using this as like a resume fluff or a resume builder or anything like that just to kill time, do it with something that doesn't have so many lives and it's not so much at stake, you know? I believe I heard some other callers talking about decertification and prosecution of killer cops. I don't know exactly under what legislature piece or whatever it's called that falls under, but I would like you guys to implement that. I don't know if you guys are able to agendize it so that it can be talked about in a future council meeting. I believe San Francisco also has a CART, a Compassionate Alternative Response Team, who, my understanding, I don't know if you call 911 or whatever, but you get routed to a mental health crisis team, and that would have been something that, if that had been implemented 6 months ago, Trevor would still be here. So
30 seconds.
Sorry, I have a lot of anxiety. This stuff always gets me really worked up. Sorry. Okay, I lost my place in my notes, but justice for Trevor Seaver, justice for Alonzo Nunez. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you. Emerson Drake.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Members of the council, ladies and gentlemen. As I sit at home and watch on Zoom, I need to point out, first of all, there's 5 windows there. 3 of those windows are occupied by the council members that are at home. One just has his name or a picture. Apparently we don't get to see him, but that's okay. But when you look at the entire board, the majority, it's like you're in shadows, especially when they're talking about individuals that are on that. They're in shadows. Now, somebody's made a decision to do that. I don't know who. Maybe that's just the way you've always played it. But when someone's talking specifically to someone up there, it would be nice to see their facial expressions, their interactions, whatever, rather than just seeing figureheads at the distance. Secondly, you know, when it comes to COVID, we get a lot of information, some of it anyway. But I prefer medical professionals. But for some reason, the city of Modesto has decided to give Supervisor Graywall the time to expound about something he has very little knowledge of, quite honestly. It rings of electioneering to give him more time because he's in a position he was never elected to support. Matter of fact, people didn't want him. Okay, that's beside the point. A bigger concern is during his last election, he ran against an LGBTQ candidate and attacked her. So it seems like just by singling him out, rather than rotating through the entire board of supervisors, you're supporting his actions. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, but that's what I'm saying. Now, Councilman Zalaki, your comments are reprehensible. You know, you're trying to play Dr. Spock, okay? Interestingly enough, Dr. Spock was first published in 1946, I believe. Now, I imagine you like the 40s and the 50s. You know, the early 50s were before me, I'll admit, but that was a time of segregation. That was a time when lynchings went on. That's when we had whites-only water fountains. The blacks couldn't use Woolworths, their counters. But yet you decided that you needed to tell other people, how to raise their children. So we took the opportunity today to send you a link to Daniel Shaver, his execution. Now this was a white man who was who followed every single...
30 seconds.
Yeah, you know, I'll point out that you didn't do that when the city councilor, excuse me, our friend from the chamber across the street was speaking. You were quiet. Councilman Zlaki, you're just beyond belief. You just truly are. You want to talk about integrity? You have none, or you would not be there tonight. To tell somebody else how to raise their children, that they'll be safe if they follow the commands. And Daniel Shaver followed every single command he was given, and he was gunned down. Take that link and go see what you saw. When we have the head of the MPOA saying that if we can make changes for the better, because he's not sure because they're so good. And when we have a police chief, an interim police chief, that believes his men are well trained, and the city council doesn't, quite honestly, slap him down and go, you don't know what you're talking about. The people of Modesto you lose credibility. You have. I thank you for my time. Good night.
Good night. Ravante Robinson.
Yeah, so first thing that I want to say, and you probably heard it tonight before, is that the fact that La Montilla was able to kill multiple people, it's not because of training or anything like that. It's because of the culture and Modesto's leadership, and it's also the culture of Modesto's police, which goes hand in hand at the end of the day. Comply or die, that type of attitude, to hear that from council members is fascism. That's what that is. How can you kill a man? Because this does fall on y'all too, because, I mean, y'all have more power over the police than any other person does in the city. So how can y'all kill a man and then turn around and disrespect his family and basically try to make it seem like it's their fault? That's victim blaming in the highest sense of it. So I just wanted to say, ended by saying justice for Trevor Seaver, and Mr. Zawicki or Zawacki, whatever, however you say his name, he can eat a dick, bug him, abolish the police.
Zawacki, step down.
Good evening. I am looking forward to the presentation in agenda item number 18 with an update about the moving forward together presentation. And I was going to address Sasaki, but it looks like everybody else handed it to him here. And I just want to also maybe point out the reason why you have people out of Modesto coming to city council meetings. It's not just because we've asked them to, and that our reach goes beyond Modesto to the Central Valley, to the Bay, and to LA. It's not because they are also victims, but it's because Modesto is now on the map, and the map doesn't look good for Modesto. So I hope that the presentation coming up on agenda item 18 can clarify a little bit about how you're not going to be pulling our leg and extending this process, but that you are going to plan to move forward in a more productive manner. You've been listening to us for a long time. They're coming to the city council meeting to support a police review board, because it's a problem, as the last person mentioned, it's a problem of not of lack of training, or not just lack of training, but that is the mentality of police across the state and across the country. And maybe reform isn't going to be enough, as some people have mentioned, but we have to move forward. And so I thank all of those who are calling in to speak on behalf of the residents of Modesto. We hear you, and we know you got our back, just like we have each other's back here in Modesto. So I look forward to making another comment here on agenda item 18. Soslaki, step down, out.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to come forward to speak under public comment? John Mataka?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is John X. Mataka, and I'm a member of Valley Improvement Projects and also a member of the Grayson Neighborhood Council. I'm requesting that the Civilian Police Review Board and other police reform issues be placed on the Budget Committee agenda. If no money is allotted for this issue, nothing will be done. On another issue, I'm requesting that Councilman Bill Zalaki be given a verbal sanction for his callous, ignorant, and disrespectful statement regarding parents' need to train their children to obey police officers. Councilman Zalaki should not be able to lead any committee concerning police reform due to his bias. Black and brown parents and parents in general have historically known that our children are at risk of being assassinated by the police, and we have instructed our children to be cautious in interactions with police. Yet our children continue to be murdered by the police. It is not due to not following instructions. It is due to racial profiling by the police and white supremacy in law enforcement. In conclusion, Councilman Zalaki's comments was an attempt by him to make the victims, our children, look like the perpetrators, and the police, who are the true perpetrators, look like the victims. But it failed. And it's pretty evident tonight that that failed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Ramon Rodriguez?
Mayor, he's already spoken.
Oh, okay, his hand was still up. Linda Mayo?
Hi, I just started watching the meeting, so I'm not sure if I'm in the appropriate order. I'm sorry, I apologize, but I've heard other people talking about the formation of this policing issue, and I just wanted to say that I'm very much in favor of creating this commission because I think it's a win-win. I am not a person who wants to defund the police or who is anti-police, but there's been enough tragedy in our county alone that I think it's appropriate to be able to have the police departments and the community be able to have conversations together in order to improve these outcomes. Because as a mother of two seriously mentally ill daughters, I know what it's like to be afraid when your child is out there psychotic and isn't being responded to by someone who is trained. And even though the police department or law enforcement for that matter gets the de-escalation training, it seems obvious to me that it is either not often enough or has not been treated seriously enough. And this weighs heavily on family members who have people who aren't always of their right mind. So I really encourage you to support this kind of movement in order to bring our community together and have less tragic outcomes. Thank you very much for listening.
You're welcome. Are there any other public comments? I don't see any. So at this time, we will take a 5-minute break to 7:30 p.m. and then we will return to discuss our consent items. All right. Everyone back? All right, will the city clerk please read the consent items?
Yes, Mayor. Item number 5, consider approving the minutes from the April 13th, 2021 council meeting. Item number 6, consider approving a First Amendment to the legal services agreement with Shute, Mahali, and Weinberger LLP to increase the agreement amount in the amount of $200,000. Third amendment to the legal service agreement with Allen Glassner, Hazelwood, and Worth LLP in the amount of $200,000. And approving a first amendment to the legal services agreement with Rennie Public Law Group in the amount of $75,000. Item number 7 has been removed from consent. Item 8, consider approving amendment number 3 to the cooperative agreement with the California Department of Transportation for the State Route 132 West Freeway Expressway Phase 1 project to update the funding table and to approve payment of $15,000 for pavement skid testing to be performed by Caltrans. Item 9, consider approving the plans and specifications for the Scenic Drive Pavement Rehabilitation Phase 1 project, accepting the bid and awarding a contract to George Reed Incorporated in the amount of $1,173,458. Item 10, consider approving a loan to the Archway EH2 LP of $1,400,000 in Home Investment Partnerships Program entitlement funds plus activity delivery costs in an amount not to exceed $80,000 to be used for the development of Archway Commons Phase 2. Item 11, consider accepting award from the Governor's House of Business and Economic Development for the Cannabis Equity Grants Program for local jurisdictions. Item 12, consider approving the Second Amendment, increasing the agreement amount with Elevon Incorporated for merchant services by $189,863. Item 13, consider approving the awarded bid and purchasing agreement for federal brand ammunition to San Diego Police Department for an estimated annual cost of $150,000. Item 14, consider approving a First Amendment extending the termination date with Dual Safety LLC for the furnishing of safety training and consultation services through May 6, 2022. Item 15, consider accepting the Park Operations Water Use and Expense Report for fiscal year 2020 through 2021. Item 16, consider approving the First Amendment increasing the purchasing amount with Dan Ely Backflow Services for the backflow prevention testing services by $13,000 for the last year of the agreement. And item 17, consider approving a 5-year agreement with Kinley Horn and Associates to provide engineering, design, construction, and planning services for airport capital improvement projects for the Modesto City County Airport.
Move to approve all consent items except consent item 7.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Councilmember Teskisha Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Ricky.
Aye.
Zalaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. Those carry unanimously. May I ask staff to come forward with a brief report on item number 7?
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Jalen French, Community and Economic Development Director. So as part of our ongoing efforts in the construction of phase 1 of the State Route 132 project, which I can say is on track and ahead of schedule, Caltrans has asked for an amendment to the cooperative agreement to isolate $2.4 million of SHOP funds. That's State Highway Operation and Protection Program funds, primarily used for the work around the remediation of the barium stockpiles. This is an internal accounting issue with Caltrans, and they've asked us just to separate these funds from the rest of the cooperative agreement. Be happy to answer any questions that the council may have on this item.
All right. Are there any questions from the council? All right. Any comments from the public? We had one, Teresa Gamboa.
you in your talk. Good evening, Mayor Swallen, council members, staff, and members of the public. Mr. Lopez, my name is Teresa Gamboa. I am the chairwoman of Woodland West Community Neighborhood in District 3. Woodland West borders are Carpenter Road East, Blue Gum North, Morse Road West, and Kansas Avenue South. The SR 132 will run the length of our neighborhood from Carpenter to Morse. It seems that the 132 is the most important project you have at this time. It's your biggest priority and the most expensive. The construction is making fast progress. I am here tonight to ask you to consider a sound wall for the Woodland West community neighborhood from Ranley Way to Morse Road. If you truly want to build a structure that lives up to your statement of ensure safe, efficient, and reliable infrastructure, excuse me, I need a drink of water, you will work toward giving us a sound wall. We need it for health, safety, sound, and well-being. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and we're getting you a water.
Thank you. I left mine in the car. It's nice to meet you guys. Most of the staff all here know me. I look forward to meeting with you and talking with you about the 132 and my neighborhood.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Are there any comments from the council?
Yeah, Teresa, can you tell me the streets where that sound wall would, what area are you talking about there? What are the streets? Okay, go ahead.
I need a drink, David.
Yeah. And if you don't mind pulling that down when you talk, I have a hard time hearing to begin with, so I appreciate it.
I have a hard time breathing with these.
Yeah.
The 132 runs the entire length of our neighborhood.
Okay.
And so for our neighborhood, it will begin at Carpenter Road and end at Morse Road.
Morse?
M-O-R-S-E. But we're asking for a sound wall from Ranley to Morse because the way Jay Young can tell you exactly, from behind Carpenter Road, there's homes that go right up against the property line, so it's not feasible. But it would be from Ranley to Morse.
Okay. Is that on the side, is that on the north side of the 132, or is it on the south side?
It would be on the north side of the 132 on the south side of our neighborhood.
Okay. And there's like a frontage road that runs across there. Is that correct?
You're thinking of Kansas.
Okay, right. It's Kansas. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so you're asking for a wall would be on the south side of Kansas?
Yes.
Along that area? Okay.
Yes. One of the problems is from Mercy West to Morse Road, neighbors have what's called a garden fence. The garden fence is one layer of brick and it's deteriorating. From about Ranley, almost completely to Morse Road, the 132 had to be elevated for about 3 feet. That makes that garden fence shorter for the neighbors. And from where I live almost dead center in the neighborhood, I can hear the 99. It wakes me up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So there's no way this project is not going to have a major impact on my neighborhood, especially those people from Mercy to Morse in that quadrant.
Okay.
Now that you guys have opened it up, you're going to be seeing and hearing from us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council? Councilmember Ricky?
Yeah, I've talked to Teresa about this a few times. And let's just be honest about the problem here, because she is correct in that we really should try to get a wall here. But the problem is funding. You know, we're looking at between $3 and $9 million to build this wall, which we need. This is my district here. So, you know, we gotta make it out. I want to protect my district too. You know, it's important. But we also have to, when Caltrans did the sound tests, we didn't pass the threshold that they had to put the wall in the budget. And so that's the problem that we're suffering from here. So I don't know, and I know that Jalen's working on this, and he's trying to find some other sources of funds to make this thing happen. But that's what we're looking at here. This isn't like, that's the challenge we have. I don't have a solution, but that's where we're at. And so anything we can do to support Teresa would be awesome, but I don't know what the answer is.
All
Can
right,
I respond to that, Madam Mayor?
Sure.
The sound wall that we're asking for is 2,112 feet. And originally, when we first started talking about a sound wall, they thought that we wanted a sound wall that was between 9,000 and 12,000 feet long. And that's not the case.
Thank you.
So have you got the costs on that? Did you figure out, have you talked to the city about how much that's gonna cost them?
No, I haven't met with Jalen yet, but hopefully we will soon.
Well, why don't you connect with me offline? You have my info, and let's talk about it some more.
Thank you, Councilmember Ricky.
Thank you. Any other comments from the council?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
All right, Councilmember
Regarding-
Madrigal?
Yeah, regarding the request from Teresa and the neighbors in the Woodland West, I've been, for lack of a better word, I've been advocating to find a way to fund this wall for a while now. I appreciate Teresa's relentlessness and just to shed some more, just to follow up on what Councilmember Ricky said. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Teresa helped point out that there may have been some deficiencies or some, for lack of a better word, yeah, just some. So this, when they ran the sound test, that there may have been some other factors that weren't taken into consideration, such as time of year, time of day, those type of issues that may not have been that resulted in the sound tests not meeting the threshold. However, had they done the tests either at different times of year, different times of the day, different days of the week, it might have ended up, with a different result that would have lent itself to say that we definitely are going to impact this neighborhood with that level of sound that they're talking about. So, please, Councilmember Ricky, if you can, please loop me in on any follow-up meetings that Teresa may have with Jalen that you may facilitate. I'm encouraged to hear that, and at the same time, I'd like to see if it's not too late, I'd like to ask staff to add this sound wall to the list of ideas and projects that hopefully we'll be discussing soon when we discuss infrastructure projects. In the coming months or weeks. If y'all remember that conversation we had during the budget hearings about having a council meeting on infrastructure priority projects that we ought to be prioritizing. Thanks.
I have the notes about the sound study, if you want to hear it.
Okay, I think that we've already heard pretty clearly that you are going to follow up with Jalen French. So it sounds like we're headed in the right direction with this process, that staff is going to work with you directly, which is just what I was going to suggest at the beginning, that you make that direct contact. And then in the future, we'll be able to hear from Jalen again and have a presentation regarding going forward if that's the decision that's made. But I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you. So I'm going to bring back the staff recommendation for item number 7, a resolution approving a cooperative agreement with the California Department of Transportation, Caltrans, for the State Route 132 West Freeway Expressway Phase 1 project to provide state highway operation and protection program funding in the amount of $2,400,000 to the project, and authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the agreement. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Okay, it's approved by Councilman Zalaki.
I'll second.
Councilmember Canoyer, would you like to be the second?
Yes, I'll second.
All right, we have a
I can't hear, Councilmember Zalaki.
How about
at all
now?
On any of what he says, it sounds like nothing, so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step in on.
Oh, no,
but
no
even
problem.
Even on when he responds to, when she asks for the vote, you can't hear him at all.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Will the city clerk please do the roll call?
Council members Keisha Brayton,
Aye.
Madrigal,
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Zalaki,
Aye.
Canoyer,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. The motion carries unanimously. Do any of the council members have any comments or reports? Councilmember Ricky.
You're muted.
Zoom meetings, huh? Can you hear me now, Jenny? Yeah, all right. Hey, so last week we had budget meetings. Most of you missed them. It's because we did them during the middle of the week, during the middle of the day when everyday Modestans can't attend or participate. As a council, we need to stand up for our constituents. We need to make sure that their concerns are given the proper attention that they deserve. And in community meetings, in the weeks prior to the budget meetings, I heard dozens of requests from, the people that I represent that ranged from, from forestry to tennis courts to, roller skating and public access television and homeless services and affordable housing and the police budget. And yet over 4 days of budget meetings, we heard from like half a dozen people? This process, it's antiquated, it's elitist, and it's anti-democratic, and we need to do better, okay? I also want to talk for a minute about police review. First of all, I just appreciate the fact that we have members of the public spending 2 hours talking to us about our city and how to make it better. I think your vision, it's good. It helps mold the future of our community. And we have these community sessions coming up, so I hope that everyone attends these. Stephanie, do you know when those dates are? Is that public yet?
Now's the time for you to make your comments, and we're going to discuss that in our next agenda item.
Okay. We've also been talking about this cahoots thing for months now. The closest thing I heard about it in the budget kind of literally involves like armed officers accompanying social workers. And like if that's our idea of what we want to do, I think we really kind of lack a fundamental understanding of what is going to work. I mean, do we really want to follow the example that like the LA sheriff is doing? I don't think so. I think we need to start having some serious conversations about cahoots, and so I hope that happens. We're also currently searching for a new chief of police. I think that public input on this thing is really important. This is our police department in our community, and the future of policing is happening now. And we've also heard a lot of people talking about parenting and as to why innocent people are getting shot and brutalized. And we just need to understand that this, just like doing budget meetings during the middle of the week, is just another example of privilege. I mean, it's incredibly strange to me that we don't hear people talking about the parents of certain officers as well. We don't. Finally, I really appreciate Richard coming and speaking to us today about public access. This is the future of creative, and it's not just about TV, it's about the internet, it's about getting local content out there where we have no local TV. All of our Sacramento TV stations that supposedly cover Modesto, they don't even bother having an office here or reporters based here. They don't. We're in a media desert. We've done nothing about it. So I'd love to hear, I don't know, I guess I'm not allowed to ask questions here, but I'd just like to hear what level of funding we have for public access. Maybe they can report back to that on us later, but I'd like to know how that goes. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments or reports from council members? I'm not seeing any reactions, or do I see it? Tony Madrigal, Councilmember Madrigal, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to follow up on Councilmember Ricky's comment. I'm interested. I'd like to know what funding there is available that the city either knows about or has access to or can access for the continued support of our public access television and programming. It's literally our local hometown TV, and I don't know how to say it. I'll put forward a motion, and hopefully it'll be a quick report back. I'd like to make a motion that we receive a report back at the next council meeting on the available funding for public access television, including but not limited to my TV 26 channel, and I welcome a second.
This is not the time to make motions regarding things that wouldn't even be on the agenda, which would be a violation of everything that we do. So this isn't the time for that. However, if you would have a discussion later.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. This is what we've been instructed to be able to do, and it's been clarified by the city manager and the city attorney. If you could please clarify it again. This is one of the few times that we as council members are allowed to make motions.
Okay, I'll have the city
like
attorney address this. Maybe I stand corrected.
And thank you, Mayor. This is traditionally where council members that would like to have something on the agenda in the future have brought up the request at this time.
Okay. What was your motion again?
A motion, it can either be one of two ways. You can either be a request, to staff to bring this back and not be a motion. Obviously, if there's no opposition from any council members, or if we need to, I'll be happy to put in the form of a motion directing staff to bring back a report on available funding for public access television, including but not limited to the My TV 26 local TV channel.
So
I was welcoming a second, so.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. City Manager Lopez, did you want to make a comment?
I was just going to state for the record, this is something that we're actively looking at and actually have a meeting set up next week with the nonprofit that is part of the programming. And so, again, we continue to look at this and identify available options to get the programming back up and running.
So I guess that's why I was somewhat confused, because I knew, and we had a discussion that was in the works. So so we have a motion and a second.
I'll be happy to amend my motion to wait for 2 weeks if staff needs more time. If that's okay with the seconder.
So amend your motion to wait 2 weeks for what?
Instead of having a report back at next week's council meeting, have the report back at the meeting after that.
Councilmember Madrigal, I'd prefer and I know you're going to want a specific time, but maybe the end of May would probably be more realistic so that we can continue to vet some of the things that come out of the next meeting so that we can be more prepared with a more substantive update.
I mean, I could live with the last meeting in May. I don't know about you, Councilmember Ricky.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Well, then I'll modify my motion, requesting a report back at the last meeting, council meeting in May.
All right, I have a motion from Councilmember Madrigal, a second from Councilmember Ricky. Ready for the roll call? Yes, we'll have the roll call.
Thank you. Council members Escutia Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Ricky,
Aye.
Zalaki,
Aye.
Canoyer,
Aye.
Wright,
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. Passes unanimously. All right. Any other council members with comments or reports?
This was it. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you providing the opportunity, and thank you, City Attorney, for the clarification.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, so we will go on to item number 18. Consider an informational update on Forward Together, the engagement initiative on policing in Modesto.
Mayor and council members, Kalua Barnes, Deputy City Manager, and wanting to kind of follow up on our April 6th meeting and update here when we had the opportunity for the council to actually endorse the engagement initiative, which we've now named Forward Together. So this status update really want to focus on two things. One is we've scheduled a listening session that is scheduled for May 22nd. It is a Saturday. We've got a 10 to 4 time frame kind of blocked out, and we expect that the meeting will happen both here in the chambers and be available virtually. The plan at this point includes a professional facilitator, not just for this day, but likely for the entire process to work with the community members. And out of that process, we expect some themes to emerge. I'm sure we've heard a lot of them already over the months since Trevor Seaver's death and the comments from the public. But we want to give an opportunity on a weekend and with nothing else on the agenda but to actually listen to the community and start to develop strategies for going forward. We'll plan to have a Spanish translator at the meeting, and we're also looking at the possibility of American Sign Language. And we are hoping to have our stakeholders at that meeting as well, so that on the 22nd, we'll have the opportunity for the council to listen and for the stakeholder partners to be present, and ideally for the facilitator, and we'll just kind of get this project going. In the meantime, though, I wanted to say that we're not waiting. We've heard loud and clear today and at prior council meetings about the issue of kind of that intersection of mental health and law enforcement. And so staff is already looking at alternative intervention options for that specific situation. And whether it's cahoots or whatever it turns out to be, we want it to be real clear that this has actually begun already, won't interfere with the initiative and the effort with the larger group, and ideally will be folded into it so that when we get to the finish line with whatever the recommendations are, we've addressed that very specific issue. At this point, our partnerships are with the county. We think it's important for behavioral health to be part of this process. We think it's really important for law enforcement and the district attorney, not about telling us, but really for us to, as we learn and get educated about the systems, to have them explain how some of these things work so that essentially to the extent that change is desired, we know how to make that happen. And then finally, there was a mention earlier about the police chief recruitment that actually is underway, and there is a community input element to that recruitment that will involve surveying the community. So we really are moving forward and expect after the 22nd to come back and start to work through the remaining tentative timeline that we've established. So I mentioned the April 6th meeting when council first approved it. We now have a name and a date for our listening session on May 22nd. And then from that point, we expect a series of meetings that will happen with the group reporting back sometime either between December and early next year with recommendations, and not really clear what those recommendations would be, but to give this group time to both learn, relationships to be built between the community and the nonprofit stakeholders, and really come together on recommendations that the group feels will meet the needs for the city of Modesto. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for that report. Are there any questions from the council?
I have a question.
Councilmember Escudia-Brayton.
Thank you, Mayor. In regards to the community input into the recruitment of the chief of police, what is the process to receive input on this recruitment effort?
So I'll be really brief and then Joe can jump in, but as I understand it, the plan is really, we've got a recruiter, a professional recruiter is handling it, and they will actually be sending surveys, Joe, posting?
Thank you for the question. So we're doing a couple of different things. One, we've identified a group of individuals to solicit input and feedback from in developing the candidate profile as the recruiter goes out and tries to solicit interest in the position. In the meantime, we will also be submitting a community survey that we'll send out. We'll be doing plenty of marketing to make sure that we get as much feedback as possible. And then that information will help feed or inform the final decision-making process.
Thank you very much. My second question, can you hear me? Okay, my second question is in regards to the listening session. If one is unable to attend that date and time, how can a person provide input to that conversation?
Thank you for that question. A couple things. One, although it's a long day, some people might want to come and go at will, so there's no need to stay for the entire event. We're also planning to stand up a website where there will actually be a comment box that folks could actually submit additional information. And we also plan to have that website kind of keep track of the progress of Together Forward, the work group, and sort of be that place where people can get information and also maybe leave some comments. So that's the thinking, is that we'd have a comment box.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ricky?
So Khalid, are there going to be opportunities for people to, I know I'm getting a little confused here as we're talking about a couple different things, but at the meeting we're having on what date was that again?
The 22nd of May. Saturday.
Okay, on the 22nd. That's about the review board and the auditor, correct?
So I hesitate to answer that because we're actually establishing a process where the outcome, we're not assuming we know what comes out.
Oh, right. Okay, got you.
So it's the
So
engagement
would that
initiative.
be an appropriate time to talk about the police chief too?
Would there be a time to talk about? I didn't hear
If
you.
people wanted to talk to the city council about what they want in a police chief, would that be an appropriate place to talk about it?
The city manager is saying yes, that would be an appropriate place to talk about it.
Cool. Also, hearing about you standing up a website and stuff, if you want to talk next week or whenever you're free, I found some really good software that's pretty cool about if you want to look at it in terms of allowing people to leave actual comments and stuff, like video comments and stuff like that. That might be kind of neat.
Charlie Haas and I will touch base with you. We've got kind of our template that's citywide for the website, so we'll have to see kind of what we can do with it.
If it doesn't work, it's fine. I'm just trying to help.
Yeah, we can. I'll reach out to you and we can see what opportunity is there.
All right, any other questions from the council members? Zalaki?
Yeah, just one, Kalua. In reaching out within the neighborhoods themselves, every neighborhood has its own kinds of special issues. Some of them are collectively in all of them, but some of them a little more isolated, depending on how they are. No, in my neighborhood, that's true, and I have some distinct neighborhoods within the neighborhoods. Is there an outreach going on to those that have a neighborhood network already established, being able to engage them directly? Because they probably would react towards what their issues are and like that opportunity to do that.
So our thinking about this process is that even the first meeting is public, but all of the meetings will be public. I think we can work with the group to see whether or not those meetings are in one place or whether they kind of rove around. But as we think about it, one of the organizations on our list is actually Modesto Neighborhoods, Inc. So really kind of trying to get to stakeholders that have influence and then who can actually bring to us suggestions and also push information out.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from council members? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public? All right, I see ZS.
I have a couple of questions. Can you clarify the website where people would be able to make comments? What languages will those be available in, and how will those comments be shared with the rest of the public? I understand that for these city council meetings, we can also submit written comments, but those are never read out loud. So I don't know what my other peers are saying to you all. Those are also not included in the notes or minutes. for us to recap and read what was said in writing. And so if you can answer those questions, and then if you can clarify, at the beginning there was mention about a committee being formed of all sorts of different people, and I didn't see that on your timeline. I heard or I saw the listening sessions, and then you mentioned something about education and then participation. Can you clarify that too, please?
So I'm going to try to remember all of the questions that you asked. For starters, I want to also mention June 8th, which is when the staff will come back to the council that has the themes that come out of the listening session. So our thoughts are, we'll kind of sort them into themes, and then that will be the charge that's given to the work group. The council would approve that, and then also approve the member organizations, I guess is probably the best way to describe it. You ask about the name for the website? The link. We're going to push it out. We've got set up the email already, and we're working on kind of these logistics behind the scene, but we'll have all of that, and we'll actually push it out on social media once the page is live. The planning so there's a translation site on our website, but we'll actually look at kind of what else we need to do to improve language access.
Yes, and then so what about the comments being shared with the rest of the community that are submitted through that process?
We haven't thought that far. I guess the question really, ultimately, we will have to consider is whether or not there's some moderating. But I'm making a note of your comment, and I don't know the answer to that yet. I think we'll kind of unpack that. There's not any interest, though, in not having the messages and the ideas and the concerns captured. On May 22nd, when we have the listening session, we're actually planning to have a court reporter or a stenographer so that nothing gets missed, and the council can really focus on listening to the community. So to the extent that there may be some public comments that people submit, we can figure out how to share those in a way that's helpful.
And May 22nd, is that a weekend?
It's a Saturday.
It's a Saturday. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda Mayo?
Hi, I have two things. One of them is, as far as the committee is concerned, it's very important to me that one of the stakeholders be behavioral health from Behavioral Health Services, and I'm not sure how that's going to happen, or if you've thought about it happening. So I'd like to have a response about that, because it's really important to me.
We've absolutely thought about it. It was one of the things at the top of our list, and in fact, we've actually already initiated conversations with county behavioral health as we plan for the solutions to the mental health issues that we're having, and some alternative solutions and approaches. Ms. Mayo, you there?
Linda, did you have any other comments, or would you like to unmute?
Hello?
Yes.
I had one other for Chris Ritchie. He had made a comment earlier about we wouldn't want to go the direction of the sheriffs in LA County. I'm not sure what you referred to that, and I just want to share an experience with you so that maybe you can clarify for me. But about 3 years ago, I went to a NAMI convention, and the LA police chief was there along with the mental health director, and they talked about their alliance in responding to a mental health crisis. And they actually put their offices like across from each other, so that when the mental health crisis came in, they already had it up on their computers about, if the person was in the system and what, the status of their treatment and these kinds of things that helped in, going out on a call. The only problem that I heard from them about, they all liked it. The problem that I heard from them about it is that there wasn't enough staffing to be able to do it every time, which is problematic all over. But so I was just wondering where you came from, when you were talking about.
Yeah, no problem.
Linda,
No,
and before, excuse me, Chris, one moment, and I want to hear from you for sure, Chris. Linda, before you get off too, I want to make a comment to you, but go ahead, Chris.
The statistics are not as good in their program as in the other programs that people are talking about.
All right, and Linda, I wanted to assure you that I have received emails from you and responded, and I directly spoke with Kayla Barnes, who's doing this presentation tonight, about your suggestions. We talked in length about NAMI and the great work that you do in our community and the experience that I've had with the organization through many years. So I wanted to address that we spoke directly about your email and your suggestions. They are heard. And also regarding the previous speaker, that we do routinely, as council members, receive emails about comments that are sent either online or through email. Those are sent to us, and we do read them. I believe that if we would read them in public, and that would be, we do not, I guess.
We no longer do that.
Okay, but that would not.
That's
that would
because
be,
we have the Zoom and the calling in portion of it. So the email comments, I gather, I put them in the backup, and when I receive them, and then I have them forwarded to you.
Excellent. We do read those. I did want to make that point. So thank you very much. Linda, did you have any further questions or comments?
I just want to thank you for your very quick response when I wrote to you, and I appreciate all that you're doing in this effort.
You're very welcome. Stephen Allen.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I just want to express my concern basically for what exactly is going to take place between the May 22nd meeting and the June 8th, when the council, I forget the wording of the presentation, but it's essentially going to like take it all into consideration and then say what they're down to do and what they're not down to do, right? I would very much like to hear some kind of commitment from you guys at this moment to assure me that you are not going to base your decisions on what is good for the political just scene, I guess, in Modesto. I don't want to see Modesto Police Department have a lot of influence in that. I want the people to have the influence. So I guess what I'm getting at, to try to be more precise in what I'm saying right now, is are you guys able to make some kind of commitment to us at this moment that when you hear all of our feedback, it's not just going to be the same crap we've seen over and over again? What is the most important thing to you guys when you consider how we move forward? And I want a commitment from you that you are going to base your decisions on what the people want and not what the cops and the DA's office and members of this council, etc. want. I am very concerned that as we move forward, it's going to be business as usual, as it always is in this screwed up country where cops are worshipped for being murderers. And I don't want to hear that kind of crap anymore. I want you guys to make a commitment that the change is going to be for the sake of public safety and bettering our community, and that the criteria that you base your decisions on is going to be what moves us forward, not what the people that are, whispering in your ear or whatever it is they do behind the scenes. I don't care what they want. So make that commitment and make it clear to us at this point in the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I see Darlene Ruiz.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to reach out and thank Chris Rickey for supporting us through everything. I know it cannot be easy being on the board and standing up for us, but it means the world to me. And I also wanted to say it's so shameful that you've sat here, Councilman Bill, and never have even acknowledged everything that's been said to you. Shame on you. And it shows all of you on the council allowing him to be this way and not speak up and be held accountable. is exactly what we've done with the police in this town. It's disgusting. Stand up, people. That's why you're in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments from the public? All right, any comments from the council? I don't see any, and this is a report.
Right, this
only.
is a report back, so
Right,
there's no
report
action
back.
taken.
Thank you very much for your comments and the work and the effort that's gone into this. I am looking forward to this with great promise in our community. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right. Next on the agenda is hearings. The item is to conduct a public hearing and consider adopting a resolution of necessity and directing the commencement of an eminent domain proceeding and authorizing the making of deposit of probable compensation to acquire fee title to the entire property located at 4125 Sisk Road, Modesto, California, APN 135-029-022 for Phase 2 of the State Route 99 Pellendale Avenue Interchange Reconstruction Project. Pursuant to the provisions in Section 1245.235 of the Code of Civil Procedure of the State of California, quote, notice of intent to adopt a resolution of necessity, unquote, was mailed to the property owner and the identified legal representative of the property owner on March 25th, 2021, and the owner has been given reasonable opportunity to appear and be heard before the Modesto City Council. Thank you, staff. Jalen, for your
Yes.
presentation.
Good evening, Mayor. Thank you for reading that and introducing that. Jalen French, Community and Economic Development Director. So the item before you, as was read, is a public hearing for something that we refer to as a RON, a Resolution of Necessity. And it's in regard to the nearly complete Pellendale Interchange Reconstruction Project. The Pellendale project replaced a structure and roadway that was originally constructed in 1970. So nearly, what was that, 50 years ago, which at the time was built to low volume rural design standards that no longer met the current criteria or traffic demands. This was a project that was initiated back in 2005, environmental clearance around 2009, and then the city took over project management from Caltrans around 2011. So you will know this is on a state facility, State Route 99. It's a Caltrans facility. The local government, in a lot of cases, like with the 132 project, for instance, is the project manager. So been at this project for a very long time. At that time, and we'll talk more about this, 19 design alternatives were reviewed during our design and pre-construction. And eventually one was chosen, of course. Now, sometime during the design, we had the opportunity to receive some state funding that had a very strict timeline on it. And because of some of the issues with the negotiations surrounding the property that we'll talk about, which currently houses a Carl's Jr., we split the project into two phases. They're not a natural phase by any stretch of the imagination. 95% of the project is complete in phase 1, but we have the second phase here that really we're talking about, and I am not switching slides. So here is the graphic of the overall project, very large project. And so the subject area is the area highlighted in red. So again, to comply with the timelines of the Proposition 1B grant, we separated the project. At that time, Caltrans, whose facility it is, again, made some design exceptions, understanding that the city who's managing the project, would come back and complete this portion of the project. And largely what this portion of the project is for storm drain water retention. You may know that during the winter times, the area does flood. Now, in addition to the Caltrans facility, the project, which we're referring to, will help us widen the Sisk Road segment there.
Excuse me.
Okay. So a resolution of necessity must be adopted prior to the commencement of an eminent domain action. And I want to be clear here, we are not necessarily entering into an eminent domain action with this action. Negotiations will be ongoing, but what this does is it brings both parties to the table formally. Again, we'll talk about that. We are not entering into eminent domain right now. This is a procedural step in the process to ensure that we are properly negotiating the terms. So as part of a resolution of necessity, there are 4 findings that need to be made. They are up on the screen. I will refer to them briefly, and then we'll go through the next 4 slides, which will talk about each item. So generally, number 1, it's in the public interest and it's necessary. Number 2, the project has been planned and located in a manner that sees the least private injury. Number 3, the property sought to be condemned is necessary for the project. And number 4, an offer of just compensation has been made. And now, just the last piece I want to talk about is this action is independent of the just compensation. That will be handled with the negotiators as an action that the council will take at a later time. So diving a little further into number 1 here. So, you know, we all know who live here. Pellendale has been utilized as a major east-west arterial connecting State Route 99 in East Modesto. Number of commercial shopping centers along this route. And so the project will bring the design exceptions that Caltrans originally approved, separating the 2 projects, into compliance. It'll lessen congestion and improve traffic flow in Pellendale and Sisk. It'll improve general traffic flow and road safety, and it will increase capacity of Caltrans drainage. We want to ensure the water is not on the street, but is in the proper basins that it should be. And this will increase it by 51%. So the necessity is there. Again, 19 alternatives were identified, and this was the best project, which we'll talk about a little bit more. But again, the necessity is there in terms of traffic flow, road widening on Sisk, and then drainage. Okay, the project is most compatible with the greatest public good and least private industry. The selected alignment meets Caltrans and city planning standards. And again, originally 19 different designs were evaluated. And this is a full evaluation. We do recognize and of course sympathize when, you know, a $45 million project goes forward, there will be some private injury. This evaluation is to minimize that private injury. So again, the approved alignment was selected to minimize that, and largely it does impact one property owner and one business. So the project is necessary, the property is necessary for the project. Touched on this a little bit. So the RON, the resolution of necessity, would authorize the acquisition of the entire property to allow for the second left turn from eastbound Pellendale to northbound Sisk, provide a third dedicated through lane on eastbound Pellendale Avenue, and provide dedicated right turn lane onto eastbound Pellendale. This is a very busy intersection, many times, much of the day. So not only that, but allows again for the retention of the stormwater both on city facilities and the Caltrans facilities. So there is no flooding and loss of lanes. And then the fourth and final piece, again, these are the four findings that would be required for the resolution of necessity: offer of just compensation made to the property owner. So the later phase, we completed the appraisal in late January of this year. An offer was made to the owners in early February, and those negotiations are ongoing and will continue. The notice of this hearing was provided to that owner, as was read by the mayor, in late March, and we are here today in late April to hold that hearing. So there are some benefits to condemnation process, and so this is what we're in. It keeps the project on schedule. There are a significant amount of dollars, multiple $1 million of use it or lose it funds that we have from the state for right-of-way acquisition for this process, and we need to meet certain timelines to be able to utilize those funds. So we want to ensure that the project stays on schedule and allows the city to meet its deadlines. Deposit of compensation sets a date for fair market value. So we can actually go through a third party, which is bullet point number 4, but a third party to set that fair market value. It requires a response from the property owner so we can meet our deadlines, and then if we need to, a jury would determine the amount of compensation. So that's kind of the protections on the city side, but what about on the property owner side? Owners are protected by state and federal law in this process. The city will deposit its appraised amount, which the owner can withdraw immediately. Owners can represent a claim for greater compensation than is offered, and perhaps even greater than fair market value. And a jury, again, if we need to, would determine the amount of compensation. And so the last slide is just kind of the staff recommendation. Again, it's the 4 findings that the council would need to make. And before we turn it over to any staff questions, Grace Magsoyo is with Caltrans, is on the line. Should the council have any questions, I might offer through the chair if she can make some comments, as it is the Caltrans facility. If not, we can defer to council questions if there are any through Caltrans.
All right, so would you like this person to make a comment now?
I think
okay.
It'd be best to make brief comments from Caltrans.
That would be great. And this is Grace.
Grace.
All right.
Good evening, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening, my name is Grace Magsayo. I'm the Deputy District Director for Program Project Management and Asset Management for Caltrans District 10. Thank you for allowing me to speak briefly in support of the Pellendale Project Phase 2. District 10 surely appreciates the partnership with the City of Modesto on this very important project. As you know, and as you heard, the Pellendale project dates back several years and was the recipient of Proposition 1B funds for the first phase. We now have the opportunity to complete this important project by constructing the needed basin to ensure that winter flooding does not interrupt traffic and the neighborhood, and also to implement operational improvements that will better serve current and future traffic needs of the community. Completion of this project means that the community and those that travel State Route 99 will benefit with the improved traffic flow and safety enhancements that this project will bring once it is completed. One of the focus areas that our new Caltrans strategic plan, which was just released earlier this year, emphasizes to advance equity and livability in all communities By completing this phase 2 of the project, we are partnering in improving the City of Modesto's livability as well as contributing to its economic success. So as a final comment, I just would like to say that Caltrans looks forward to the continued success of the project, and we hope to see this project completed. And I have to say, I have actually family members that drive down State Route 1999 and see this interchange just at the completion of the first phase. And I get asked questions about who built the project, and that is, it's a beautiful, beautiful entryway into the City of Modesto. So I just like to say, great job to the entire team that has gotten it this far. Thank you and good evening.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions of staff?
Yeah, I do, Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Canoyer?
I just have, I want to know the basin. Is that going to be an underground basin or an open basin?
It'll largely be an open basin, but of course, the water will perk into the ground and into a system. But it's a open basin.
All right, Councilmember Wright?
Thank you, Mayor. Jalen, this project is 100% funded by Caltrans, correct? Or by the state?
You know, I actually...
Not
I
the project itself, I mean the acquisition of the...
Oh, yes.
Correct. That
Yes.
property there.
Yes.
So none of that's coming out of the general fund or...
No.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Sanchez?
Yes, Mayor, just a couple points before you open it up to the public. And I think Jalen did touch on this, but the resolution itself, it is also directing the commencement of the eminent domain proceeding, as a resolution does mention. And I think what Jalen did also emphasize is even if the council were to adopt this, stating that it is necessary and following starting the commencement, it doesn't mean that the negotiations stop. Negotiations still continue with the property owner and also with the tenant on how to move forward and hopefully reach negotiation.
Thank you very much. I'll open this up to the public. I see one hand raised. Brown, Gee, and Wenger.
Yes, audio check?
Yes, we can hear you.
Perfect.
Great.
I apologize. I didn't realize I was still logged into my firm account. My name is Christopher Gonzalez. I am an attorney for the Modesto Restaurant Group, which operates and owns the Carl's Jr. franchise at this particular location. I believe that I heard the city clerk confirm at the beginning of the meeting this evening that she had received and distributed our objection letter. I do confess that I sit here this evening in a position of slight ignorance. I'm just getting up to speed on the project. My clients really didn't have an understanding as to the significant impact this project would have on their business, i.e. that they would have to close down this location until very, very recently. And there was a misunderstanding with the right-of-way agents that were reaching out. That my clients thought they were solicitors. They thought it was a scam or something like that. So I'm getting up to speed right now. I have taken steps to establish a dialogue with your right-of-way agents at Vendor Rosenthal. I have had preliminary discussions with one of the city's engineers, that's Sandeep Sandhu, and an associate in Mr. Sanchez's office at Myers-Nabe. I relayed a number of questions and concerns to them, specifically including some matters that Mr. French addressed in his presentation today that I found quite insightful. Thank you for that. One of the big questions that we had was why was the project phased in the first place when 95% of it happened several years ago in phase 1. And really what we're curious about is how necessary is phase 2? How necessary is this remaining 5%? And I'm in the process of trying to coordinate meetings with both a representative from the city attorney's office, with the engineers at the city to further discuss this, because we really need to figure out what's going on to be able to evaluate and strategize our response. I do know that The appraisal that was referenced during the presentation, we haven't seen. It's just not something that the property owner has shared with us. We do occupy the space under a lease. But typically speaking, tenants are entitled to damages and certain relocation benefits. I am going to make sure that my clients go forward with the process of speaking with the relocation benefit agents. But there are additional damages that could be asserted in eminent domain that I believe should have been appraised and an offer made prior to this adoption of the resolution of necessity. So I'm a little concerned that we're premature. My objections are mostly listed forth in my letter. They're part of the record. I don't know that I'm going to repeat them here. But to clarify, we do have concerns and questions about the necessity and design of the project. Tom Thomas, one of my client's principals, is present this evening. I know that he wants to talk about the impact of potentially losing this location. It's a very, very lucrative location. It employs dozens of residents of the city of Modesto. But briefly, like I said, we believe the resolution is premature. At the very least, if the city council is not looking or inclined to deny it at this time, that we would ask that you postpone this vote until the next meeting, just push this off a month. Let me get a chance to pursue that dialogue with city staff and with the city attorney and see if we can just get our heads wrapped around it, explore design options. I would really like to see the feasibility study of the 19 different designs that were put forth. But in the meantime, I think just a slight delay, just a 1 month, push this off until next month, and it may be that we're able to work things out. Thank you.
Thank you. I see Tom Thompson. Was here.
I just unmuted. Hello?
Hello.
This is Tom Thompson.
Yeah.
How are you? My partners and I, Carl's Jr. franchisees, Bay Weirdsma and Jeff Casaretto were also on the call. Before coming to this meeting, I kind of looked at the resumes of all the council members, and I realized there were a lot of similarities. I was born in Merced and raised in Chowchilla. I'm soccer commissioner, regional commissioner for AYSO. One of my sisters just retired as a registered nurse after 30 years. Growing up in Chowchilla, I wasn't on a farm like Tony was. My dad was a meat cutter for Safeway and then Lucky's. My dad also was a Rotarian, and Carl's Jr. is a major sponsor of the Rotary All-Star game, held a football game in the Central Valley, and have been for over 12 years. So we're involved in the community. Chris, thank you for supporting and being there with us. We've owned and operated Carl's Jr. restaurants for 36 plus years. And we've acquired restaurants, built numerous restaurants, and we've never had one taken from us. This is really, I got angry until I saw you guys' resumes and realized you're people like me. Our business on Sisk Road has been growing, and it really started with the improvements in the overpass, no question. It's grown every year since the overpass, and we had record sales in 2020, and we continue now. But now we're no longer going to be in business per your plans. Over the last 23 years, we have been building restaurants throughout the Central Valley. Ceres, Riverbank, Manteca, Ripon, Chowchilla, Livingston, Atwater, Patterson, Kerman, Oker, Sanger, Los Banos, and most recently on Fresno's west side, employing people and paying taxes. And now you have money to put in a turn lane and widen a frontage road and remove our business and a drainage area, which we hope we have some rain so that we
30
have
seconds.
need for a drainage area. Sorry about that, but we're all dealing with the drought. Just, we were never contacted as the lessee. And we have a 14-year lease on a very, very successful restaurant. And you're taking our business away from us. We pay the property taxes. The landlord doesn't. We had over $400,000 in payroll in that restaurant last year, and it's going to be higher this year. It would have been nice to have gotten a call, and I realized from being on this call for now over 3 hours, you have bigger issues than our little restaurant. But anyway, our landlord kept us in the loop on the progress on this project, and we really were hoping that it would stop with the overpass. Did you really need to have a turn lane and widen the frontage road for about 200 or 300 yards and take our property, our business, and having a 14-year lease is like owning the property. And based on what we pay our landlord annually, that property to her is worth $3 million. And based on the value of our cash flow on that restaurant, our business is worth over $2 million. And you're going to take it away from us. So I would like you to pause and think about all that and the fact that we employ people and that we have 2 other restaurants in Modesto, and we have a couple in Ceres, and we have one in Riverbank. And we employ people that are underemployed in the Central Valley. And they're mostly people of color. And so I would just appreciate consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I see Stephen Allen.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that Carl's Jr. like serves trash that kills people, and attorneys Mo and Curley can just go to hell and like save your stupid emotional pleas for some other occasion. That's disgusting. Okay, and for you to like try to like use some sort of people of color this or that appeal is disgusting. And I personally think that a widened lane would do a lot for the safety of that intersection. It gets really messy. So I don't know all the details behind all this legal crap with these like attorneys for this huge stupid corporation, but don't come into this town and try to pull that bullshit rhetoric because it's disgusting. Like Carl's Jr. food.
Right. Is there any other comments from the public? Seeing none at this time, any comments from the council?
So Mayor, and sorry to interrupt, before we go to the council, I would like to introduce Annie Smitty from my office.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I apologize for not introducing her at the beginning. She has been working very closely with staff on this. She's very experienced with eminent domain, and I know that she would like to add a couple points regarding the resolution that could maybe add to some of those answers to some of the questions that were raised.
All right, Annie.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Jose. I just wanted to point out a few, respond to a few of the issues that the tenant has raised in the proceeding. First, the issue of whether or not the resolution of necessity is premature. And I just wanted to emphasize that the city has complied with all of the prerequisites to adopting a resolution of necessity by retaining an appraiser, having the property appraised, making the offer to the owner of the property, and by noticing not just the owner, which we're statutorily required to notify, but also the tenant, which we are not actually statutorily required to notify of the hearing on the resolution of necessity. But we went beyond because we do want the tenant to be heard. And we have tried to reach the tenant on numerous occasions through the appraiser and through the relocation consultants. and we were not responded to or told that they would not speak with our agents. So there's no additional requirement that the city has to comply with in order to adopt the resolution of necessity. In addition, we did discuss some of the protections to the owner regarding the eminent domain process, but there are also protections for the tenant. They have rights in the eminent domain process to make claims for compensation. They also, under California law, are entitled to relocation assistance benefits. And we have our relocation consultants who are willing and ready to speak with them, to work with them to find an alternative location for their business. And if there are damages that result from the relocation, they can make a claim in the eminent domain proceeding. So just to clarify some of the issues, you know, this is by no means the end to the discussion. If the city council elects to adopt the resolution of necessity, it is now that the tenant does have an attorney and is open to discussing these issues, we look forward to trying to resolve the issue without, you know, further litigation.
All right, thank you.
Make a motion to approve?
I see a comment, one more comment from Tom Thompson.
We tried to find a relocation for the restaurant, and there is nothing in the vicinity. And maybe in the future we will find another location elsewhere in Modesto, because we have two other restaurants that do very well in Modesto, and we will continue to try and develop, but there is nothing comparable to this location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
All right.
I have a question.
I have
All right.
a
Only
comment
comments
from,
permitted?
all right, sure. Councilmember Scudia-Brayton.
And it's actually a question to Jalen. Just, do you see any benefit into considering or discussing an extension, or is it the matters would remain the same tomorrow and a vote is best to be dealt with tonight?
So two parts of that question for us, I think. Nothing in the action tonight precludes us from continuing to do what we've been doing for the last month or two, actually. We will continue negotiations, we will continue relocation, all those efforts will be ongoing. Now, the second part of that is we do have some use it or lose it funds at risk. Again, this is a Caltrans facility, trying to get up to Caltrans standards. We do have a timeline by which we need to meet our project requirements. And so, you know, I think this is best of both worlds. Proceed tonight, we continue to negotiate. Clearly, they're now involved in the process, and we can continue those negotiations.
Thank you for that clarification.
All right, I see a comment, a raised hand from Emerson Drake.
Here we go. Just one quick question. I'm curious who the landowner is. That's all. Thank you.
All right, I believe, was that included in the agenda? I can search.
I believe it's in the agenda report. The name is Mrs. Serrano, Miss Serrano.
Okay. Mrs. Serrano.
Serrano.
Can I second Dave's motion?
All right, so I'm gonna, this was a little messy as far as when public comments were closed and then people came back and then, but I think we're where we're at now. So any further comments from the council? Public comments closed. No further comments from the council. All right, so we have a motion from Councilmember Wright and a second from Councilmember Ricky. I'd like to ask the city clerk to call for the roll call.
Yes, Mayor. Council members Escutia Brayton.
Aye.
Madrigal.
Aye.
Ricky.
Aye.
Zalaki.
Aye.
Canoyer.
Aye.
Wright.
Aye.
Mayor Swallen.
Aye. So the motion carries unanimously. Are there any matters too late for the agenda? Don't see any hands raised. Seeing none, I am calling this meeting of the City Council. Oh, sorry.
I want to sing happy birthday belated for Trevor Seaver. I would like the City Council to acknowledge his birthday because I know it's really important to the family. And so I would like, if it's okay with the rest of the council, that we sing happy birthday to, belated happy birthday to Trevor Seaver.
Jenny,
All right.
Jenny, I'll join in with you too.
I'm going to make one comment that we've kept private tonight, but this is Jenny Canoyer's 80th.
Oh, no,
Oh,
please.
I want to, but okay, I won't. It's her 86th birthday. Let's sing happy birthday then.
I
to
don't
Trevor.
want
We're
that
going to sing it to Trevor.
I don't want that to overshadow the importance to the family for a young man who would have been 30 and that they weren't able to celebrate his birthday. I appreciate what you get, but
Right.
I just don't want, I understand.
All right.
And I appreciate it, but I want this to be for Trevor Seaver.
And I know it was riveting to hear that this young man was 30 years old. And I see that Kyle is still on, and I hope he's listening. So, Jenny, would you lead us?
I hope it's okay with him.
Kyle suggested that we do this, and Kyle, I see your hand raised.
Does he want to comment? Or?
Yes, he wants to comment.
Yeah, I truly appreciate it.
All righty, we're going to sing happy birthday to Trevor.
I just really, from my heart, feel as a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother that not having him here for his birthday it's just so sad for you. And I just want you to know that we are thinking about him and we want to sing happy birthday. And I hope that, his mother's listening and your sister's listening and everyone else is listening because it comes from our heart. It's truly coming from our heart. So,
all right, Jenny, would you begin?
But I hope everybody unmutes and sings with us. Chris? Okay.
Councilmember Madrigal, unmute. All right, here we go. Let's do it.
Okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Trevor. Happy birthday to you.
And you are truly missed.
Thank you to his family.
All right, I'll call this meeting of the City Council to be adjourned. Thank you.